这个三角是什么呢？如果有一种死亡的波案呢，在后面呢，应该同一个时间呢，已经发生了29起比较严重的一个事故。
Site safety supervisors competency training. When you work in the site, we have the well-trained safety officers.
Some background information about IOSH Hong Kong and IPT cycle, which is applicable to all the members.
So it is the duty of the employer to make sure their safety, health and welfare. OSH practitioners play a very important role to ensure and take care of the 15 million workers in the country.
When times go by, things keep changing. This is the conventional thinking process. We are trying to flip icebergs.
35% just to pricing in the profit of the risk. This is very, very dangerous.
Which one do I choose for my worker? The one on the left, or do I use the one on the right?
OSH practitioner look at design for safety must look at how we design every single aspect. How do we design a better system?
I would like to share with you one program introduced by DOSH to the employers in enhancing the professional health standard at the workplace, so-called SHEA.
In Hong Kong, there is employee compensation ordinance, and we ask the government and then to let the workers have the compensation and have the proper protection from the occupational injuries.
Before start of the radiographic work, the area is to be clear of all people except for the authorized personnel. The boundary shall be clearly visible.
Well, this is the topic in America, in Australia, in UK. Discuss a lot about lone worker policy. Now, but when I see in Asia, a lot of company goes like, not we've got better problem to solve, but this is an opportunity for us to start to deal with this.
Currently, there is already provision in bills of quantities in Hong Kong so that these safety measures are sufficiently quantified and paid for. There is also rewards or penalties.
We benchmark with Europe, Norway, US, Japan to find the best framework for us to actually develop a good legislation that can benefit us, especially the government and also the industry.
Our vision for film adoption in Hong Kong is that we identify hurdles, motivations, adoption, reference successful leaders and other international examples, and changing mindset from compliance-driven, double handling to a more value-driven mindset.
What are the major attributes to a successful construction project? You will see a tug of war. I believe there is a common misconception. They all think site safety is the safety officer's responsibility.
So their committing accident trend is always increasing for the past 15 years in Malaysia. And we as a social security body, together with the partners, we need to do programs to at least cover this issue.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the video of our along the journey, for our past four webinars that we have conducted. So without further ado, let us pass to the organizer, Mr. Engineer CM Ho, to take over on the brief introductions.
Thank you, CK. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm glad to see you all again in our WAPOSHP seminars to date. Well, on behalf of the organizers, Social Resources Development Institute from Hong Kong, SHEA Academy and Consultancy from Malaysia, we appreciate a lot for all the co-organizers and supporting organizations. They are Malaysian Occupational Safety and Health Practitioners Associations, Institutions of Occupational Health and Safety Singapore Branch, UCSI Universities, the Hong Kong Institute of Clerk of Works, the Hong Kong Development Professionals Associations, International Powered Assets Federations, World of Safety and Health Asia, Macau University of Science and Technology School of Liberal Arts, Hong Kong Institution of Engineer Safety Specialist Committee, Authorized Secretaries and Technical Directors Societies, Material Tech Company Limited, International Professional Safety and Environmental Solutions Company Limited, and the Hong Kong Association of Risk Management and Safety. To date, we have great pleasure. We will have 5 industrial leaders to deliver their professional speech in our webinar today. The first one is Engineer Professor Vincent Ho. The second one is Engineer Husdin Bin Che Mat, and then Mr. Matthias Krope, and Engineer Dr. Yiu-wah, and Dr. Mohammed Lodins. So welcome all to join our event today again. I would like to pass the microphone to CK Lim. CK, please.
All right, thank you. Can you Engineer Dr. CM Ho for the brief introductions. So I'm CK Lim of SHEA Academy, so representing the organizer. Speaking on behalf of the organizer, I'm also the moderator for this webinar. So basically, we have about 130, more than 130 persons, participants enrolled this webinar, but at the moment we have around 70 of us together with us. So across few countries, they are from Malaysia, mainly from Malaysia, Hong Kong, and also some from Singapore, India, and some other countries. All right, so let's look at the agenda of today's webinar. So we started at 9:30 in the morning with the professional networking. So and then welcome speech by Engineer Dr. CM Ho. And then we will have our first speaker to speak and at 10 in the morning. And subsequently followed by Tuan Hussein, Mr. Matthias Krope, Engineer Dr. Ng, and last but not least is Dr. Muhammad Arif. We have a total of 5 industrial experts to speak with us today. So the each and every session will take around 30 minutes, 30 minutes of presentations and also 5 minutes of Q&A. So before we go further, I want to review the functionalities of WAPOSHP today, right? So your active participation is important throughout the sessions. So right now I have everyone on mute to avoid the background noise that might distract you from listening to the webinar or interrupting the speaker delivering their speech. Throughout the presentations, someone on staff, I myself, will be managing the chat functionality. There will be Q&A sessions, as I mentioned just now. So for every sessions, you are required also, you can enter your questions and comments in the chat box below throughout the presentations. The moderators will randomly choose a few questions, provided if time's allowed, to the speakers during the presentations to keep the audience engaged as well. So hopefully our speakers were able to explain to you and then also answer to your questions. So you are encouraged and only allowed to switch on your mic or unmute your audio to ask relevant questions to the topics presented by our speaker at the end of each presentations. So attendance certificates will be issued to those who have made the payment. Please drop off your name and which country do you from in the chat box to let us know that your presence once in every hour. So by the way, if those who haven't paid and would like to get the certificate of attendance, you are not too late yet. You are welcome to contact us and drop us an email to get your certificates. And I would like to get every participants to actually express, at the bottom bar, you can see the reactions. So to express our gratitude to each and every speakers at the end of their presentations by clicking the icon of claps or thumbs up to them. So to actually thank them for presenting, sharing with us on their subject matters. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's join me welcome Engineer Professor Vincent Ho, the Chairman of Hong Kong Association of Risk Management and Safety, to present his topic on risk management, back to basic, why we do it. Right, so welcome, Engineer Professor Vincent Ho. Let me stop sharing the slide first. All right.
Okay, good morning.
Morning.
Let me just double check. Are you looking at my slides?
Yes.
Because I can't see what are you looking at. Yeah, good morning to all. Before I start, I want to show my appreciation to Dr. CM Ho, KK, and CM for organizing this particular event today. And a serious event is also being organized by Dr. CM Ho. And I think it's very helpful on this new normal for us to even meet on a Saturday morning and be able to talk to different people from different countries, different time zones. And this new normal, I wish everybody ride out safely. And if there are risks, there will be opportunities. And I think opportunities that we can grab this time is we are now able to talk to everyone almost instantly. In the past, if we organize this kind of event, we have to fly to Malaysia and or enjoy dinner with Dato. But with the new normal coming in, I think it will enter a new area, a new age, a new era that we can be able to communicate and networking even more. So we just have to embrace the change that we're facing. So back to this topic, when CM approached me what to talk about, and I look at the list of distinguished speakers, only thing I know is very basic thing. So let me just talk about why we do risk management and the reason why we do it. Because over the years, we've been doing it almost like a daily business, and we pretty much forget why we're doing it. And so there are a lot of strange habits that we've been seeing in the past and also in the present, and hopefully we won't see in the future. So let me get it started. And we hear a lot of statements when I talk to people on the work site that they don't need it. We don't have accident before, so therefore we don't need risk management. That's only for people pushing paper. And we're very strong in safety culture with safety inspection. So is this real or true that you don't need it? So hopefully we can explore that a little bit more today and with different story. They also say we don't have the money. We don't have the resource to do this. So, but hopefully we can find out the reason why you're doing this and change the feeling about risk management at the end of the presentation. So let's move on. I think in the morning, maybe we get tired, and so I'll try to wake you up with some case study first. First case study. We've been running railroads, and someone been throwing rocks, chairs, bicycle onto the railway in the last 30 months. So the regulator, well, this is not Hong Kong, not my railway, find it should be a major safe risk to the passenger and also to the public, because once you put a bicycle on the railway track, the train may go derail and it may go into a horrendous accident that could end up with numerous casualties. So the regulator asked the particular rail operator to set up a fence along the corridor, what we call between the tracks. And the cost could be for that particular section, let's say just 100,000 pounds to begin with. So the duty holder, the regulator asked the duty holder to, why don't you think about this? And because the law is about ALAB, you have to maintain the risk as low as reasonably practicable. So the consultant thought about it and hired by the duty holder and say, well, let's conduct a quantitative risk assessment to show that the individual risk or collective risk to the particular train ride is small. So we justify not to do anything. Pretty much to show that the cost that you put in the fence is much, much higher than the cost to prevent a fatality. So what do you think about this? I'm going to use the polling, and hopefully you will all see this polling in front of you, and select a question. There's no right or wrong. We're not going to keep your name to find out who is saying what. But it's just a general idea of what you think in this particular situation. So 2 questions will be conducted during this presentation. The first poll will ask, well, for this case, what are you going to do to cut costs, save money? And am I going to do a QRA and justify not to do anything? I can do a cost-benefit analysis. Believe me, there's no right or wrong. So I've been seeing people putting up their votes now, and just keep putting it up, keep putting it up. There's only 10 of you. So we're monitoring the number. Just click one of the boxes. Remember, we don't keep your name. It's just for fun to keep you awake.
Do not worry about your name will be exposed.
Only name we can see is probably my name. So there's just two basic responses that we're looking at this. Just keep talking through. We need to think back why we do risk assessment, why we do risk management. It is to inform and support decision maker. So yes, you can do a QRA and also a CPA to show that the risk level is high or low, and then compare to the risk mitigation measures, and then decide which measure to take. But if you have already made up your decision and try to use a QRA to justify it, this may not be the optimal tool. So you need to think about why we're doing this at the beginning. To conduct a risk analysis is to help you to make a risk-informed decision. It's not to justify decision you have already been made. Otherwise, whoever consultant you hire, well, you can pay them enough money, they can twist the numbers. It's all about numbers, about the manipulation of the mathematics behind it. So this is really not too appropriate for this case. But I see people showing, let me share the result to you. I've seen people showing yes and no. And if you see the result, there are 65% will say this is not the correct way, and 35% will say, yeah, that's what I would do. Again, there's no right or wrong. In some instance, that might be what you have to do, because it really depends on the situation. Sometimes the regulator will come in and do things that you don't think is justifiable. But I think the moral of the story is, let the consultant or let your staff do the risk assessment, and let the number to tell you what is right and what is wrong. On the risk analysis, there's also another opinion to do this, is to set the risk acceptance criteria. If the quantified correlative risk is within your risk acceptance level, yeah, you can justify you being risk tolerance. However, if you're facing a risk that has imminent safety risk to the passenger, to the public, then the QRA should not be used to justify not to do anything. But you can use to justify what can be done. So instead of raising a chain link fence, you could have other measures to compare to it. Raising a fence is not the best way. You could have other measures, education, warning, or even change the corridor, change different way of doing things. Or maybe you have a bunch of trash around the railway track. People can be easily go around and pick it up. So that will be something that we must look about. And again, there's no right or wrong. It must depend on your particular situation. But sometimes when you're committed to a particular risk mitigation measure, it might be more difficult for you to adopt a better measure. So you better hire a consultant that is competent to do the risk assessment, instead of trying to use a number to justify not to do anything. So to do a QRA, a risk assessment, is to help you to find an optimal decision. It's not to help you to tell people not to do anything. So let's move on. Case study number 2. That, well, we've been hearing this a lot. Give me your report. I don't have the time to do this. So since you have a risk assessment for your particular project work site, if it work for you, it should work for me. The regulator is coming to ask me to do a risk assessment. So why don't I just use your report? Let's share it. So the duty holder will use a risk assessment report prepared for worksite Y and a simple worksite. Y is doing preparation work for a new worksite X. So however, the duty holder just want to show that they're similar and they're both low. So when they work on it, they find out that there are specific, well, this picture doesn't show again, too bad. There's specific that there are actually significant differences between the two. And can you really use a risk assessment for a different work site to your work site while you have site-specific fall from high risk? So our advice is, what do you think? So let's do another polling to see what you think about this. Again, no right or wrong, but I'm sure someone will pick the answer that you may not want to pick just for the heck of it, especially when CK said we don't keep the name. So same issue. That's why we do to cut costs, save money. That is not the correct way to do a risk assessment. Now, compared to the last one, this one I wouldn't pick number one at all, because to go ahead and use a risk assessment, you must consider site-specific hazards. A generic risk assessment can only give you a generic risk. It doesn't tie to any specific website or work site. A generic risk can show the industry-wide risk exposure, but to a particular work site that you have particular different type of risk, it is not going to help you at all. You might be able to use a generic risk assessment to satisfy as a regulator, but it's very difficult to satisfy yourself, your stakeholder, your own conscience, why you can use a generic risk assessment and ignore your site-specific risk. So, just for the fun of it, I'm sure I'm one of the two to pick this just for the fun of it, to make sure this bar, the blue bar, actually works. Yeah, it actually works. So the last one, I can understand in some cases you may do what they say, but for this one in particularly, it is strongly advised not to use a generic risk assessment to conduct for a different work site for your particular work site. So another advice that we can come up with is it should be specialized to a particular work site or project. The generic risk assessment is good for industry-wide, especially when you use the data that is particularly coming from a generic site. So you don't even have the right equipment. You don't have the same equipment as a generic database. So you're not showing the risk of your particular work site, but you're showing a risk of a general industry. So that may give you a direction or a general idea, the ballpark of the risk you're getting, but it doesn't reflect the risk of your particular work site. It is not going to help you to mitigate the risk that you are going to face when you actually start working on this work site X. So let's move on. There are a lot of risk management framework out there. This is probably coming from different framework. We can take another poll for the students if we're teaching a class. Which framework is this? Which one is that? And so forth. So whoever get it all right will get 100% A+. You may be overwhelmed with all these framework. Which one do I use? There's an ISO 31000 that came out in the year 2009, November or something. That is the first international standard on risk management. Some people find that easy to use, and some people find it difficult to use. So you also look at different standards. RM3, you have to look at different type. Some are more simple, some are more complex. But it doesn't matter which one you use. You can always fall back to this simplified version. In any risk management program, particularly the one that you think you should be adopting, should have these 5 basic steps in it: the risk identification, evaluation, treatment, and control. And then communication. Now remember that when you do a risk assessment, the number is only good at the time you do the risk assessment because it's based on lagging indicators. So this is a snapshot of a system. It is not going to be living forever. So unless you do continuously monitoring and reviewing the risk assessment, the result you're getting is only good at the day you do that. Especially if you're looking at construction work site. Things are changing hourly, daily, weekly. You cannot base on risk assessment that was done 2 months ago to tell people what kind of risk exposure they're facing tomorrow. So this monitoring, continuous review is extremely, extremely important for people doing this. And also, this is not one-off activities. You have to do this continuously, day in and day out, find new risk, managing it iteratively, continually. I cannot emphasize more. Do not think that you have done a pretty looking risk assessment, put up the bookshelf and think that you're bulletproof. No, you're not. Now, out of this step, the most important one is, of course, I will show it, the risk identification. Some people may think, oh, what about assessment? What about this? But usually it's the risk that you haven't found is the one that may kill you, that may hit you, that may make you suffer. If you find it, at least you know it's there. And then the rest of the process will help you, if you do it right, will at least help you to find a risk mitigation measure that can do that. So let's look at the last polling. As I said, it was just for fun. There's still people picking up different things. So, oops, maybe I put the wrong poll, but never mind. Which one is the most important step? Identification. But what can go wrong? When you do a risk assessment, the number one question we ask is what can go wrong? Including your own risk management program, we can do risk assessment of the risk management. What can go wrong out of these 5 steps? So let's explore into this. What can go wrong when you do this? Now, almost everyone is doing risk assessment. You're ranging from the risk assessment of spilling water, causing slip, trip, and fall, doing a Mars landing mission, sending a nuclear rocket to the sun, and whatsoever. So all these, one thing that people do most of the time that I've seen in construction work site is, do you have hazard X or not, or Y? You just check a box and say yes or no. So is that a risk assessment? That is assessment of whether you have it, but it's not going to tell you how big the risk is, how large it is, how small it is. That's something where we toy about it and just laugh at it and call checkbox safety. Now, checkbox safety is not bad. It's just depending on why you use it. If you have already a comprehensive checklist, you're doing a routine safety inspection to check things that you already know about, and it's a static state. For example, if I'm going through a railway station and checking the cleanliness of the back of the house, that might be the tool to work, but make sure you pick the right tool. What we cannot tell you is which tool to make. What we can tell you is what tool is going to do what situation. So it varies widely. One thing they also found is the most popular method is pretty much the most least effectiveness. That is like what we call placebo effect. That unfortunately you feel good about it, but then no one can really think that is it going to work or not. But people usually argue, but then my boss, my directors, my board will understand it. Now it's simple enough for them to understand it. It may not be actually the technical correct way to do things. So we have to understand how to do the risk assessment. It might be better off to do it the way it should be, and then find a way to communicate to them. So we'll go to the risk communication later on. Now, even in many companies, we will hear these risk assessment meetings or hazard meeting. Once you go in, let's not find high level risk, because then we have to tell the boss about it. In China, they just passed a new regulation that whenever you find the highest risk hidden danger, you must report to the government. So that is a good thing. So make sure people will try to find the highest risk level and try to mitigate it. But the bad thing is, if you ask me to expose myself to government, I'm not going to tell you what I found. I'll just to change whatever that I have. So what are we kidding? Are we at risk? What happens if we do nothing? That is why you do risk identification, risk evaluation, to actually find out what is hitting you the next day. You can just laugh at yourself and say, oh, we do a checkbox safety. We told the government we don't have to do anything. So why are we doing this? Is the risk control measure enough? How safe is safe? If you consider that this particular level of safety is what we can do, then you might be able to maintain your current stage and do more, put more resources on training, education. But if you think there's some high risk level of hazards that you must take it out of the picture, then you need to take immediate action. Now, all risk must be comprehensively identified, understood. The reason is, if you don't know it's there, you cannot manage it. You might be spending money on the area that doesn't really hurt you, but ignoring an area that once it happened, it may have severe consequence that can even bring down the survival of your company. So you have to understand that the best is embedded in the risk process. Make sure all workers, supervisor, all the way up will think about what safety they're facing at, what risk they're facing at. So have a high level of risk awareness culture would be helpful for you to push a risk management program. You should not just do it by the safety managers or the risk assessor. Everybody should be part of it. They should start thinking about what is risk. Now, then you will say, well, my worker is not a PhD. They may not understand it. So we have to take down to a level of language they can understand it. We'll take down to level of language they can appreciate. In some company that we've seen, they even make video to show people that if you're not being health conscious, if you're not looking at the health and safety risk carefully, who suffer most? It's not you, it's your family. If you get a fatal accident, it's your family that have to carry the burden for the rest of their lives. So we're going to make sure that people understand also the compliance, the consequence, the culture, and competency. That's what we call the 4C of any kind of risk awareness or risk management program. So we must carefully to do this. What we call is change management. Whenever you have a change, you should assess the risk. We assume today's risk is acceptable, otherwise you won't be waking up this morning. So then whatever change you make has to be at least maintained at the current level. If the new change brings in more risk, you need to rethink why you do that change. If you can actually reduce your risk, that's a good thing. So make sure that you have good change management program in place also. If you don't stop systematically find the risk, you might not be able to prioritize, rank your measure consistently. When we did the Space Shuttle Challenger accident back in 1986, long time ago, at that time we found out NASA had actually found out most of the failure modes of Space Shuttle. However, at that time, they ranked them alphabetically. It's not a joke. We look at them and say, what are you doing? They said, well, this is how we do it. We sort it alphabetically, and then we start from A to Z. But which one has a high risk? They say, oh, they all are. There's nothing have equal risk. Something will actually have what we call low probability, high consequence event, right? That one may hurt you the most. So we'll dig deep into it and find out what it is. On the other hand, there might be also other risk that is always sitting there, and you're not just ignoring it. We do this risk identification evaluation so that we can set a rational basis for us to take control action. Instead of saying, oh, the boss wants us to do this, the boss wants to do that, let's change the risk level. That is not what we want to do. So what we want to do is pay attention to the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is a big fat old guy like me. It's something that's always there. You just ignore it. You don't want to talk about it. Let's say smoking. It's always in the construction site. No one even wants to talk about it. However, smoking will ignore the health effect and all those stuff. And now COVID-19 find out smoking is actually a location where you can transmit the virus effectively between smokers. Even though you wear face masks, when you smoke, you take your face mask off, all you take is 5 minutes standing face to each other, and one patient can go to another. So the elephant in the room is something that is there. We just don't talk about it because we already accept it. You accept the level of risk, but is that really a level of risk that you can accept in general for your company? So we have to pay attention to this elephant in the room, and things that's always there is a bad habit, everybody's doing it. That introduce, you must do some independent site inspection or compliance audit. Independent means always there's some external people coming in because they put a different pair of eyes. Say, gee, what happened to this? You will say, I don't know, it's been there. Today I first returned to work, it's already there, so I'm not going to say anything about it. But that's the elephant in the room. You have to see it. You have to wipe your glasses and try to clean that. We're picking on animals. There's also a rhino in the room. What happened to the rhino in the room? Now, elephant is kind of a calm animal. You can sit there, you can look at it, it's kind of cute. But rhino in the room with a big horn, they run into you and kill you. So you must address the rhino in the room first. That is the fatal risk that you're looking at. More animal come, black swan, in fact, whatever that is, that open another hour of lecturing. So what do you do after assess the risk? That will fall into the other steps. Again, what can go wrong with that? Usually when you do the risk assessment, you find out an accident rate or the risk level, collective risk level of a particular exposed group. Then you say, well, we have a very low accident rate. Why do we do more? A low accident rate doesn't reflect the safety level. Could be people don't report it. And just remember, the lack of accident does not necessarily indicate the present safety. You may be lucky, you may be underreporting. It's a whole bunch of factors. Accident rate is an indicator to tell you your current level, but it's only one of the indicators. You cannot rely solely or purely only on accident rate to tell you what the accident is. There are what we call accident that already occurred and accident that not yet occurred. So this what we call realized risk is accident. There are a lot more unrealized risk. That let's say if you have not had a fire before, can you say that you have zero fire risk? No, you can't. There's no such thing as zero risk. So once we go on to this, then we also look at the residual risk. That means after your mitigation measure put in place, do you still see a risk? You must be. Is that residual risk high or the same as original risk? If you have done a good risk assessment systematically, if you find out after putting a measure in it, there's no change in risk level, then why bother do that? That only reflects that the risk control measure is not effective. That's really a waste of money. So to keep exploring a better risk. That go back to case study number 1. I appreciate people pick the first one. This is what we do. I'm not going to do this. But hopefully you pick the first one is because chain link fence or whatever fencing off may not be most effective. The most effective is just grade separation. We build the whole railway, put on the viaduct. So we think that's going to cost a lot of money. Well, our operation in Melbourne is actually doing that. Not because people are throwing rocks, it's because of level crossing accidents. So they have level railway track crossing with a traffic track. So every now and then they will have people try to bypass the railway and try to run into the train or vice versa. So maybe the most effective way is actually looking in those areas. Now the cheapest way is always useless, unless you have a very good solution. We always say, oh, there's an accident, let's put up a poster. If poster helps, we will see no accident in the world. You can put a poster every morning, put in front of a car and say, thou shall not have accident. If that works, it's not going to do anything. However, poster does serve its purpose, is at least discharge your liability. To educate the public, at least I've done it. So if you have an accident, well, I have a warning sign. If you don't have a warning sign, you get fined, you go to jail for that. But no, that is a minimum baby step, but that is not the only thing that you should be doing. Risk control, which one do I use? That's exactly why you have to do a good risk assessment and a good prioritization of what to do. It's not common to see today that a cost with benefit analysis is being done. Maybe because if you look at construction site, you just look at minimal risk and just say, well, let's put on PPE, let's do this, let's get rid of this. Only for a bigger size project, when you look at the constructability, look at the design for safety, then you will invest more on this cost with benefit analysis. But it's actually a very powerful tool. Now, if you have done all these, what are you going to do? You have to communicate to people. So let's explore the risk communication effect of this. Now, this particular picture on the lower left corner, if you understand Chinese, you will laugh at it. If you don't, there's actually a restaurant, and someone tried to translate that into English. So they put in Google Translate, put in whatever, but the translation come out instead of a restaurant, you come back with translate server error. So they didn't even know about this and just put it on. It's the same thing as 404 not found. If you use computer, you understand what I mean by 404 not found. When you go to the website, that's not there. So let's move on. How do I rank order the risk control measures? So usually we'll go through different level of risk control principles. Well, the most effective way is to eliminate it, avoid it. If you cannot do that, transfer it. But transfer is also at a cost. It also just someone else is taking the risk, but at least it's not to you. It may be transfer. Now, insurance is one of the first method they can come up with using risk transfer. Yep, that is not a real risk transfer. That's only transferring the financial risk, but not the safety risk. In terms of safety, you can hire contractor to do the dirty work, but someone somewhere is going to still getting hurt. So buying insurance is only transferring the monetary consequence of the risk. It's not the transferring the safety risk to other people. So engineer always going to risk reduction rather than thinking about the first two. The most effective way is still elimination avoidance. Risk absorption, sometimes we actually do that. We have done all we could. We will keep on looking, exploring new technological solutions, but at the present time, this is the best. Industry best practice is already taking up. So not much we can do. So you have to invest time on, for example, crisis management. You know, let's say I'm trying to stop a Typhoon 10 hitting Hong Kong. I've done everything. I've dismantled my tower crane. I have done everything that I could. That typhoon came, wiped up other stuff. There's only so much I can do. And then risk absorption will be the least and the last effort that you have to invest on it. Doesn't mean you do nothing. You have to invest on response level, crisis management, and business resumption. So a more familiar picture with this hierarchy of risk control that would pretty much say the same thing, that most effective eliminate it, least effective is just put on PPE. But most of the site supervisors, safety supervisors say, well, put on PPE. Now, if you're working at height risk, put on the safety harness. It's pretty much the last thing you want to do. Why? Yeah, you actually protect the workers. You have to think about why you have to put the people at risk in the first place. Can I design a way? Can I use a different method? All these stuff, you have to look at it. Do I have to use scaffolding? Can I make a scaffolding less construction? So we have to invest more time for design for safety, for CDM, construction design management, to try to actually remove the person out of the picture before we go through all this and say, oh, put a hard hat, put a harness. That should be the last step, unless you have thought about all these previous steps. Now, people like to use risk matrix. I personally do not, but then if you do it, then let's explore it. Now, those are, for example, the red area is what we call high risk and acceptable. Green area is called low risk, sort of acceptable. So usual risk matrix will go from low to high impact or consequence, low to high likelihood or probability or frequency, whatever you talk about. So something that's high frequency, high likelihood, and high impact, yeah, that will be the higher risk. So this is a typical risk matrix. What you want to do is those unacceptable risks, you really want to eliminate it. You don't want to bring down to a different level. So you should think about risk elimination and try to find something to replace it. So when you do the replacement, substitution, remember it's part of change management. You do have to do a risk assessment to find out what new method you're putting in, what are the risks associated with your new method. Some level you can transfer it, but as I said, mostly is you can transfer the financial aspect of it, not really the human aspect of it. Now, some of the high risk, you can treat it by removing the impact or by removing the likelihood. If you put more safeguard, you can remove the likelihood. Or you can do both, removing the likelihood or reducing the likelihood, also reducing the impact. Now, wearing safety harness when you're working at height, which direction you're going? The safety harness can give you at that level protection, reduce the likelihood of fall from height. But if you fall, it's not a parachute. You still will fall. So make sure that that is the last step you should do. You should try to not putting people at this fall from height risk at the first place. So why do we have to do risk communication? Simple. It's an iterative process among science, whatever. This is someone quoted. It's very simple. You have done a very good job in your risk assessment. If you put up on the shelf, what is that going to do? It will remain in the shelf. If you report to your boss, what's that going to do? Your boss knows about it, but nobody else. So you have to make sure you understand that risk communication is to use the right language to address your stakeholder. Tell people what you have done to bring people to the same level of understanding or what kind of risk that you are facing or they are exposing, so they can all work together without any silo effect to help everybody to reduce the risk level to a level that everybody is still comfortable with. We have to have a same language. If you come in and say, this is high risk or this is low risk, then how high is high, how low is low? Your low risk may be my high risk can be a low risk. So we have to be making sure carefully that the right language should be used to gain buy-in to your recommendations. Otherwise, all you've done this identification, evaluation, treatment is useless. If people don't believe in your work, they don't understand your work, and it's not going to go anywhere. You're not going to get money to pay for your risk mitigation measures. Another cynical aspect is you do have to do this. You have to document your findings to address your accountability. I have talked to people just several weeks ago. They said, well, I don't care about documentation. In a project area, we just want to catch up the time, finish the project, and move on. Hey, man, but you have to understand that if you don't document things, something goes wrong a couple of weeks later, you're going to go to jail because of lack of documentation. You can tell people that, yeah, I've done it, trust me. I can't trust you. The only thing that I won't do is, there is no risk. Remember, there's no risk. I'm helping the people. No, I don't want to do that. You know who I'm talking about. So we have to pay attention. When you communicate the risk, you have to be able to understand the risk perception of what you're bringing up, projecting what kind of risk to people. If you try to get a small problem exponentially projecting out, make a big problem, it could be a big problem, not because of the safety risk, but because of reputation risk in other aspect. So you have to be able to make sure that your statement will not taking out the context of whatever you're trying to prove. I was working in different country at the time. There was a reporter trying to test out this risk communication. And by running around telling people that there was a nuclear weapon storing in a military base next to you, he was just making it up. That create a major risk, different level of risk perception to the community. All of a sudden, you see thousands of people going around the military base and try to boycott the base and try to say that, oh, you guys should not put your nuclear weapon here. It's like trash. You should put it somewhere else. So that created a lot of chaos. But it turns out that base actually had nuclear weapon. So they had to shut down the base and move it out somewhere else. So that's a different story. So when you do risk communication, make sure be professional about it, not hiding things. If you really try to expose the risk or try to tell people the risk level, well, tell people the risk level and then educate them whether this is acceptable level or not. If you hide the fact that there's a risk there, somewhere down the line, it's going to come back to you, whether you're lucky or not. So I don't have any luck. So I want to make sure that I will expose it. I'll tell people what my finding is. And also be responsible, be truthful, be sensitive. You cannot go and say, well, the risk is you're going to die. Well, come on, be sensitive. You have to articulate it. You have to understand the whole situation. There is a certain risk level. This is what we have done about it. This is whatever residual risk is. This is what we're going to do next. So we have to be understanding what people are talking about. So this upper right corner cartoon is quite right. If you don't present your risk finding quite well, you can say everybody drink water will die. Everybody shake hand with me will die. Everyone laugh at you and have dinner with you will die. That's a fact because everybody will die sooner or later. So make sure that your statement will not be taken out of context. And that's why we do a very careful, robust risk communication. Make sure they follow the ethics. If it does go past you, do not let it go. You have to have your own conscience in doing the risk communication. Now, all these I will put in a PDF and maybe CM, CK, KK will share afterward. So those are really for your background reading. I think I'm conscious of time. I need to move on. So back to the basic, why we do it. I think I'm still doing okay with time, I hope. Let me just double check. CK is still smiling. So, yeah, so I guess I'm all right.
Yes, Professor. You may continue on.
Yeah, continue. So really, back to basic, when we outlined in the past 20 minutes, whatever time it is, I already lost track of time. We have to identify the risk exposure level profile. What can you take? Can you take more? Then open a different area, risk tolerability. Can you tolerate this risk? How much can you handle? How much more risk can you take? Can your company actually take this risk? Because you're not looking at just safety, looking at survival company. It's really to see how deep a hole you're in. If you Google YouTube, you will find out there's a very funny YouTube picture and see how deep a hole people can actually dig. And then you find that it's a big hole. You can dig very deep. But how deep of a hole you're in, what is going to hit the fan? When the fan flip around, what's going to hit your face? So if you don't do that, you're pretty much like putting your head into the sand. To find the risk hazard, you need to rank it. Without ranking it, you're following the same mistake that people have done in the past, that you might be wasting your resources on the risk level that is totally being able to accept it, absorb it. Well, but then you expose yourself to a level of risk that you didn't address. So risk management actually helps you to balance and optimize your resources. If you don't have money, you actually have to do this so that you can use your limited funding to the area that hurt you the most, rather than spend a whole lot of money doing things that doesn't really help. So that's exactly why you need risk management, especially when you run out of cash. Now, we want to provide information to decision maker so that you'll be making a risk-informed decision rather than a shotgun decision, trying to do things that you don't even know the consequence, whether it's going to help you or not. So it's to decide what to do. And when you document the decision and actions, that might be your going out of jail card. You have to show people, I have done this all. I'm better than industrial average. I have done all the good practice, all the COP or the guidance, I've done that. This is my document, right? Rather than, I've done it, I didn't have time to finish my document, so I move on. I was talking to a safety manager, it was shocked. I was in shock. He said, well, once I produce the end of project report, all hazards are deemed to be closed. So when you look at the hazard log, everything is open pending. What do you mean by after you finish your project, they all deemed to be closed? So is that closed or not? He said, no, move on, we're project, we're going to different project. But there's a very poor culture that they're promulgating. You get to have a document culture. Of course, you can also argue, do not spend your time on paper safety. But paper safety is getting out of jail card. If you don't believe in documentation, we do not understand whether you have actually done the work or not. So it is important to document the key items. I'm not going to tell you to write down a timesheet every second you're doing, but there are key steps: who authorized it, who accepted it, who inspected it, who has to go ahead. You must document it. Otherwise, I'll be checking with you through BOSH. Don't know it's in front of you, in front of me. And do this systematically, iteratively, continuously to minimize the exposure and surprises. Now, uncertainty is something that we bring about, but this is a much higher level of discussion. All about risk assessment, and risk management, if you follow the ISO 31000, is to define the risk as the making the right decision and so forth. So making the right decision can actually reduce harm and choose the optimal decision. So at the beginning, if you don't have money, do this. If you don't have time, you still do this because it's going to save you time in the long run. So what do you want to know from a risk assessment? This is also another 2 hours lecture. We're looking for things that can divide into 4 quadrants: the known and unknown. So when you look around, the known knowns at the upper left is things that you already know. The unknown unknowns is the lower right, things that you don't know that you don't even know. There's not much you can do about it except that being receiving. That's where the risk absorption comes in. Now, most of the time it's a known unknown. Things that you know, but you don't know how to resolve it. Then we may have to rely on the unknown knowns. Things that you actually can do, but you don't even know you can do this. So we have to balance it. And out from these 4 corners, the question is, which one worry you the most? Now, it's unknown. We don't know when the sun is going to burn out. Is the sun going to burn out? Is that going to alien attack? That's pretty much unknown, right? So what do we know to address the fall from high risk? There are some risks that we know about this. We should invest more time on looking at this known unknown to find out. We know the risk is there. We just don't know how we can address the risk. Then find more experts or find industry leaders to address a particular risk level that you don't know how to address it. So we have to look at these 4 boxes and try to put your worries into these 4 boxes. And then you will find out which one worries you the most. So wrapping to the end is, this is just key learning statement that I found in the past. One of the biggest risks is actually your risk management program. If you don't stop and think what can go wrong in each step of your own risk management program, you may be going through a placebo effect of just doing things for the heck of it, filling up paper for the heck of it, doing paper safety. Well, paper safety is important when you do the right level of paper. So risk management method very widely. Try to find the effective one, not the one that's most popular. Do not listen to people say, oh, let's check the box, do this, do that. So otherwise, you're looking at placebo effect. You're just doing this without actually reducing the risk, but you've done a lot of paperwork. So make sure you communicate it. Make sure people understand the risk perception in other areas you're looking at. and try to ultimately rank order the risk and put your business into best level, most comfortable level that you can look about. So I mentioned in the last page that ISO 31000 is actually talking about the risk of effect on uncertainty, on objective, whether positive or negative. So risk itself may not necessarily be a bad thing. If there's risk, there's opportunities. As I said in the very beginning, this COVID-19, there is a big safety risk. But we have opportunity that I'll be able to talk to a lot of you today, this morning. So that wrap up my talk. And time-wise, I don't know.
Yeah, we have run out of time, but it's okay, a little bit. Right, thank you very much for the wonderful sharings, Professor Vincent Ho. So they are actually 2 questions. So I've selected one of it because we are short of time. So it is actually a question from one of the speakers, Mr. Matthias Krope. So he's asking, based on his experience on construction site, most of contractors have risk assessment or maker statement documentations. Some of them specific, whereas some of them just standard copy paste. But sometimes he feels that it is only in place as evidence to auditor or as protection in case of accident. So most of the time, he found that a gap of implementing the hazard control measures in practice and understanding why these measures should be in place. So what is your experience and opinions on that?
The question is so long that I already forgot what it was. so you're talking about risk documentation.
And
there's a
gap
in understanding
implementing and also documentations.
Now, this is not really a science, it's a mix between science and arts. Do you write a 10-page report or 2-page reports? So I cannot give you a solution right away, but you know, it's just rule of thumb that document the right level. You probably hate me and say, what's the right level? You are not telling me anything, but I actually can't tell you anything until I see whatever you have. So for example, if I go to, let's say do an escalator inspection. So we do a 15 days check, there's a lot of boxes there. There's one of the item called, can you measure the gap between the escalator step, the left side and the right side, and the gap together cannot be larger than 7 millimeters. So I see people check the box. How do you check the box? Did you measure it? No, I just look at it. 7 millimeter A plus B, how do you measure, how do you just look at it? So make sure that when you check the box, do this documentation to a level that if you come back 3 months later, 2 years later, when you look at that document, you understand and be able to reconstruct what you're trying to write. The more is not necessarily the better, is the key point. If you look back to something that you wrote 3 months ago, you have no idea what that is, then something is wrong with your documentation. So you should be able to look back to whatever you've been producing and be able to understand it. You should be able to look back to your risk assessment and be able to come back with the same result and trust your result. So you think sometimes I feel it's evidence to auditor and whatsoever. Now, it's true that documentation to some people is to the auditor, but why do we audit? Why do we need auditor? It's to make sure you follow the procedures. Why do we need procedures? It's to make sure people are doing things consistently. So if you're Einstein, if you're very good, yeah, you don't need procedure. Procedure for regular, normal person who have to follow the steps. If you don't think a procedure works, rewrite it. Auditors come in and make sure that you follow what you write. If you don't believe what you write, change it. If you say I have to do step A, B, C, D, but end up you only do A, B, D, you miss out step C, auditor is going to say this is a non-compliance. You can argue, I don't need that step. Then why do you put that step? Just write down A, B, D. So auditor, they are not like different type of animals. They're actually your friend. They come in and help you to improve your process, to make sure that your process is more effective. Maybe you really don't need step C, then take it away. You're wasting your time. That's where the audit comes in. So documentation, as I said, is getting out of jail card. If you don't think you go to jail, yeah, burn them all. But how do you tell yourself, tell other people you have done it? Trust. Well, we do want to trust people, but when there's a fatal case, when you're facing the court, what are you going to tell people? Trust me, I've done it. No, you can't. There's certain steps that if you have documentation, several tire crane in Hong Kong, you set the right form inspect and authorized by a structural engineer, competent person, or RPE. Yeah, if no signature, where does that go? You cannot tell people, trust me, I've done it. I know what it is. I look at it, it works. Sometimes you have to satisfy the law, and the law is there to protect the general public. Maybe you're very smart, but then, this is just the law.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the explanations. So we are running out of time. So thank you very much. Would you like to stop sharing your slide?
No,
on.
I want to keep it. So I'm the master of the day. I'm not going to stop sharing it. I'll be talking forever.
All right, thank you very much. And let's put a big thumbs up by clicking the icon below. So give a big thumbs up to our first speaker, Professor Vincent Ho. Give a support to him. All right, thank you everyone. All right, thank you everyone. Thank you, Vincent. So let's move on to the next speaker. So it's our greatest honor to be able to invite the DOSH Director of Capital City of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. So Wilayah Persekutuan. He is Tuan Husdin Bin Che Mat. So he's going to share with us new norm in occupational safety and health of enforcement at construction site. So let's join me in welcoming Tuan Husdin. Right, Tuan Husdin, boleh silakan.
Okay. Can you hear?
Yes, very clear and loud.
Very clear, okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and good morning to all of you. Firstly, I would like to say thank you to invite me to join on this online webinar Asia Pacific OSH practice. I would like to congratulate the organizer, which Social Resource Development Institute, Hong Kong, and SHEA Academic Consultant, Malaysia Sedia Berhad, supported by Malaysian Occupational Safety and Health Practitioner Association, MOSPA, Datuk Kana, for conducting this interactive program, which will be held every month, involving with a DOSH officer from various types of the category, from headquarters, from state office. This is indeed a good program and hopeful will enhance OSH knowledge among our OSH practitioners in Malaysia and also to other countries. For today's session, I would like to highlight on the new norm on safety enforcement, especially in construction sector in Malaysia. Before I go further, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Husdin Bin Che Mat, like appear in the screen. And I am a director of DOSH Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya. For your information, in Malaysia, construction site can divide into two categories. First is a building operation, and second one is a work of engineering construction. Refer to both these, we have many activity and many workplace involved with the different risks. The employer has a huge responsibility under the law of Malaysia, such as under OSH 1994 and also under BOAX 1986, to manage safety and health in construction projects in Malaysia, especially in Wilayah Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya. DOSH is responsible to make sure that employer in a construction project is managing the safety and health of their workers and also to other person at his construction site or construction projects, in order to achieve the main objective to preventing accident in construction site or construction project. Now, DOSH use various regulatory methods such as inspection and enforcement to encourage and also to advise the employer and if necessary, to prosecute those who fail to fulfill their duties. DOSH also introduced the regulation to introduce industry cooperatives, ICOP, standards, guideline, and that will give a guided the client and designer to manage OSH during pre-construction, example, during construction, during post-construction stage. This regulation instrument will be the key driver to shift behavior change among employers in construction project and to improve OSH performance in construction sector. Okay, this for information, just a summary, the statistic in the nationwide and also in the Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur. Actually, in the whole Malaysia, DOSH has conducted a total of the around 11,101 inspection, just only in construction sites, not referred to another sectors. Around 7,977 directive letters, 8,169 notices, 1,219 compound, and 137 prosecution case in court were filed for safety and health of offences involving construction site. If refer directly to Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur, now a number of inspection is 1,561. We also give the 1,772 directive letter, 790 notices, and 375 compound. And also we bring 7 director to the court related to with the building construction offences related with the construction site. For the year 2020, it's more challenging with a high expectation placed by the stakeholder on the service offered by the DOSH. Now we refer a little bit to the data related with the construction site in the Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur. The total, we have total 32 accident. Can you see it? 32 accident in industrial accident, and 4 fatality has been recorded this year, and also currently 1,022 site safe. We also have the 1,022 safety site safety supervisor (SSS) and 1,195 registered workplace in Kuala Lumpur itself. Just refer to the building construction only. And immediate solution should be looked for the overcome this issue and to prevent accident. Enforcement of the high risk sector should be based on the principle of strict enforcement and zero corruption, safety and transformation of industry activity toward the industrial revolution 4.0 or IR 4.0 also should be taken into account. Next, please. Okay, this is a key. This the core of the paper today. The new norm of DOSH enforcement, especially related to the Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur and the Putrajaya. New norm of DOSH enforcement. The transformation of DOSH enforcement activity is important. So the conventional enforcement activity can be minimized. This is including using the new technology, such as use of drone to monitor construction activity. Second, example like self-reporting site activity by the OSH practitioner in the workplace, or we call self-regulated. And also we related with online or mobile inspection as well as other technology which carry out enforcement activity by the DOSH officials. The present drone in construction means a significant change in the industry. Drones have changed the way the construction industry operates. Currently, drones are not only used to conduct the security monitoring at the construction site, but they will also be used as evidence for legal action for such compounding or prosecution. In the year 2019 or last year, almost 30% of the compound served to industry were obtained from the drone inspection. Daripada drone inspection. Next slide, please. Drone application. Inspection using drone is very helpful in monitoring the compliance of legislation at the construction site. Especially when if the construction or site is higher place. Where the place is very difficult to reach with our officer, and monitoring the use of, and also we use drone to monitor the using the tower crane at the site. And also during the accident happen in the site, information gained from the use of drone is important for those officers to recognize and also to investigate the real situation of the accident quickly and safely, like shown in the slide that they monitor. The use of drone also help those officers to conduct investigation due to the complaint. It helps in monitoring the compliant COVID-19 SOP in construction site during the MCO period last time. Those officers also need to enter the site. If you use the drone, those officers do not need to enter the site. Instead, they just have to fly the drone from outside the site, and all the instruction and action will be using the electronic media. They will reduce the risk of officers from being directly exposed to on-site activity and also the COVID-19 transmission. This another way to do inspection or investigation process by using the body camera, but this is conventional type, but have lot of help to get the real information on time. This example shown in the video. This example, we go to another type of the new methods, new norm, self-reporting type activity or self-regulate. In order to help the employer to fulfill the statutory requirement, OSH 1994 has already outlined the role and responsibility of the SHO ataupun Safety and Health Officer. The general duty of the Safety and Health Officer or SHO are to ensure the compliance on the OSH, Occupational Safety and Health legislation, number one. Number two is to promote safe conduct of work. And also SHO have a responsibility. Many responsibilities should carry out by the SHO, like spelled out in a regulation 1997. In line with this, DOSH has provided guidance for the employer to carry out self-compliance, which is to conduct their own inspection or own audit of the workplace to identify, to evaluate whether the workplace has complied with the OSH legal requirement. In line with that also, DOSH also produced the guidance to help employer in construction sector to fulfill their duty. Here we have a 5 guidance, and also this guidance can download from the DOSH website. The first guidance actually the name is Hazard Inspection Guidance for the Working at Height. Second guidance, Hazard Inspection Guidance for concreting work. Third one, Hazard Inspection Guidance for the prefabricated scaffolding work. Next, another Hazard Inspection Guidance for excavation work. And last, Hazard Inspection Guidance for lifting work. All guidance, like I mentioned before, can download from the DOSH website. This guidance also prepared to help employer and contractor to manage hazard of construction project or in construction site. This guidance describes the requirement to comply with related to construction activity, and also the duty of SHO may use the Google form as many times as they want, but they need to fill a copy in a manual and submit to hard copy to DOSH state. Example like our state, Wilayah Kuala Lumpur, as evidence. Okay, we go to another method of the new norm. We call it online mobile inspection. Here, for example, like for the CF renewal of registration machinery in construction sector, specifically referring to the tower crane, DOSH is still developing the related SOP of online inspection, which will be based on the live application. This approach can show live load and movement of the tower crane, including movement of trolley and hook. This will be also reduce the risk of the officer of being exposed to the possible of the COVID-19 spread. This video show as example new as approach for the online mobile inspection. Currently, in order to reduce the number of officers doing the inspection site, DOSH is practice online inspection with a live video call or the recorded video likes we show in the slide. This inside camping of the tower crane example. This is a hook end of the fencing. Now go to another area. This example, the new methods, a new way of inspection by our officer. No need to go to the site. Just only use the mobile inspection or use online. Okay. We also related with the construction sites, construction sectors. We also produce the OSH guideline, Occupational Safety and Health Construction Information Management. This guideline of Occupational Safety and Health Construction Industry Management with OSH can provide practical guidance to the client, designer, and contractor of the management of safety and health and welfare where they carry out construction activities. We call OSH guideline. OSH guideline is for people with legal duties, which are those who conduct businesses or undertaking under OSHA 1994 or under Factory Management Act 1967. This include a client, designer and also contractor. This guideline also explain what they must or should to do to comply with the law. Any action taken should always be proportionate to the risk in a construction project. Basically, OSH is based on the 5 key elements, which are: number 1 is manage the risk by the applying risk assessment approach and a general principle to prevention. Appoints the right people and also the right organization at the right time. It's number 3 to make sure everyone has the information, instruction, training, and supervision they need to carry out their job. Duty holder, number 4, duty holder cooperating and communicating with each other and coordinating their work. And the last element, key element spelled out under OSH guidelines is a consult workers and engage them to promote and develop effective measures to ensure safety, health, and welfare of the workplace. The risk management process is under spelled out under OSH. Actually, a systematic way of making a workplace as safe as possible, and should be used as a part of the design process. It is involved the HIRAC. What is HIRAC? HIRAC is the hazard identification, risk assessment, and also risk control. We have a video to show that the montage of the OSH guideline.
Okay, 038
together with the participant.
No sound at all. Don't.
Next slide. Next slide. Okay. Okay, this OSH prevention through the design will be regulated soon in Malaysia, now under discussion. Okay, on last word, on the conclusions, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused a drastic disruption on our daily life, industry, and also the economy. Government and our regulator are tasked to develop measures to provide some security and minimize the impacts to the people and the workers. The transformation of a DOSH enforcement activity into new norm by using drone, by using mobile application, and a self-reporting by site safety site personnel, example like SSS, SHO, is the approach taken by DOSH to continue to carry out effective enforcement in a construction sector. It is hope that the related regulation, related standard, related ICOP guideline, will serve as a key driver and references to all parties and to improve our performance in the construction sector. With that, thank you very much. I think I stay on time. We have still another 2 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tan Husdin, for your sharing. Thanks for enlightening us on the new norms in carrying out enforcement and also the occupational safety and health in construction industry management. So basically, the new technologies has been adapted, as part of the inspections processes. So I think there's no questions posted by anybody. So this week, I just saw one question, since Malaysia has adopted a lot of okay, so there is a question from Brian Ng. I believe this Brian Ng is from Singapore. So he's asking, since Malaysia has adopted lots of new technology equipment for inspection purpose on construction site,
okay,
we still see many major construction accidents like collapse of formwork, collapse of tower crane. Any specific reason or contributing factors for these kind of accidents?
Okay, specific factors. Actually, we do many things. And also we have a special order from the key inspector to ensure that to reduce. And this special order actually we produced on March 2020 to deal with the accident happened in Malaysia. Of course, many factors involved because many things we do, for example, like new regulation, we effective enforcement, but it depends on the type of the construction and comply. Actually, the main factor contribute to the accident happen at the office in Malaysia. Actually, flash of force work and also scaffold operation. This actually still not follow the standard or the rule enforced by our law. And also mobile crane activity also contribute to the number of the accident happen in construction site, especially in Lembah Kelang or in Kuala Lumpur. I think can answer the question.
One more question to Tuan. So just now you mentioned that what even during the investigations of accidents at the workplace,
okay,
using the technology of like drone, you see.
Okay. Yes.
participant asking whether can the drone identify or analyze for any unsafe act, can detect the real cause or actually the whole scenarios. Can we use it and rely on drone to identify all the underlying causes?
Okay, actually, a drone, not all we can find fault from the drone, but certain is direct. For example, like OpenAI, this also from forensic request also existed from the drone also.
Yep.
But for the root cause, we cannot find just only from drone, but from the experience, from the expertise also we need, from the material failure also need for pathology, for example, also need help from the other experts. But for the direct cases, for example, like fall from height, from the barrier and so on, we can see from the drone, from the camera, from the drone, as an example.
Yeah, okay.
But not all.
Yeah.
But drone just only one of the tool can help us.
Okay. Okay, so thanks, Tuan. So one more last question is about the inspections on the certificated machinery. So you mentioned on the online and live inspection being carried out, being adopted.
Okay.
How about like for passenger hoist, gondola? You're using the same method for the inspections?
It depends.
Depends.
Depends. Sometimes if we need go to site, we order our officer go to site. If the picture or the video we confident with the video submit to us, we can produce the CF directly. If not, we also need to send our officer to the site.
Carry out the physical.
Yes, it depends. Depend on the clearness, depend on the satisfied of our officer before we produce the CF.
Oh, okay. This method is going to be used after this. I mean, it's going to replace the typical of physical inspections, or just for temporarily for COVID-19 pandemic?
At the moment, actually, just only to deal with the COVID, but it depends on the directive of our top management. If it's suitable to use for the next, why not?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I think basically Tuan has answered us and also have a very good presentations to us. And so let's can you stop sharing the slide, Tuan?
Okay.
Okay.
Husdin, KK sini ya.
Okay.
Yeah, the slide can be shared with us. I will post at the Facebook and share with everybody.
Can.
It's very good.
Every participant give a big applause to Tuan Husdin.
Thank you.
Yeah, just click the icon at below, right? Give a big applause to Tuan Husdin for sharing with us, spending his time during, even today is a holiday for him actually. So he do sacrifice his holiday and share with us and spend time with us. Thank you very much, Tuan Husdin.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So if you would like to remain here, also can. If you have something to do, you can go ahead. Right. Okay. So we move on. Without further ado, we move on to the next speaker. All right. It is greatest pleasure to introduce the third speaker today, Mr. Matthias Krope. So who is going to present us on the simulations of hazard and risk, experience accidents safely. So let's join me in welcoming Mr. Matthias Krope.
Yeah. Hello everybody.
Hello.
Can you see the screen? Is okay?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, perfect. So before I start with the presentation here for the simulation of hazards and risks or experience accidents safely, just a few words to my person. So yeah, I'm Matthias Krope and I'm independent professional health and safety and quality consultant for Youngwoo industry. And yeah, before that time, I was the global director for health and safety and quality in Siemens. So I spent at least 18 years in the field of construction sites or major construction projects. Yeah, and today I would like to share with you the practical safety training method because that's something what we implemented on some of our construction sites in Siemens, but also now with Youngwoo, also for other international companies, and maybe that's a good sharing for preventing accidents on site. For the better quality of the videos, because I have some videos in that, and I will switch off the camera now, and then I switch back the camera when we have to see in the last video, because that's always affect the quality of the videos. So just let me pause this. Okay, and then let's go to the next slide. So Youngwoo, what is or who is Youngwoo? Youngwoo is a company in South Korea, and this company is specialized in the development and manufacturing of safety experience training simulators. So the company itself, it was founded in 1999, and it's based near the capital of South Korea, so near Seoul. So what we do, or what Youngwoo do, is basically they work in the field of accident prevention. So maybe you remember the last web meeting, we talked a lot of invest in people, and we talked about to train workers to become safety trainers and the required behavioral change for that. So we also talked about a change from I want to do it safely and not you want me to work safely. So it was about safety culture, it was about safety leadership, safe design, the BIM, you remember. And I mean, today we talk a lot of the risk management process. So all these are levers to drive the Vision Zero forward. And yeah, this practical safety training is just another method what you can implement to support the Vision Zero. So these are specific safety training modules to simulate dangers and hazards from the workplace, but in a safe environment, so in a training center. And I mean, the modules you see there in one of this, in the picture here above, are designed according to the real machines, to the tools, or to the work processes that the workers find at their real workplace. So in the practical safety training center, the workers can learn the specific hazards associated to their work, and the workers get trained on the risk identification, the risk understanding, and the correct implementation of the hazard control measures. And for the reason that the workers are always playing here an active role in the training, this method significantly improves the concentration and the interest of workers. And at least it also provides then a much more better memory effect. So when they go back to site, they can easily remember about the hazards and risks, what they have experienced in such training centers. And I mean, you see here in the upper right box, there's the challenges, let's say, or just a few on the challenges, because these are challenges, what I have seen many times when I work at the construction sites, what we had again and again. So we always, when we work in multinational projects, we had a highly transient workforce, so a high fluctuation of personnel, so we always need to repeat the trainings. But on the other hand, we have always time pressure, so that was one of the challenges. The language barriers, so when you have workers from different nationalities, you always have language barriers. It depends in which country you are. You have also illiteracy, so you cannot give them the papers and say, read it and please understand. So this will also a challenge. Then the complexity of safety instructions. I mean, the big companies, they have tons of documents. And if you're a worker in the field, I mean, to understand all the safety instruction, it's quite a challenge there. And then the education and qualification of the workforce itself, it also differentiates from country or from region to region. So these are just a few challenges. I mean, there are much more, but I think some of you can also agree on that challenge that they have experienced. And so what are the practical safety training centers? So for better understanding, I have now just a quick 1-minute video I would like to share with you. This was a video made by our customer, by Vincent Krope, so as a promotional video for how they use the training center. So the question why we do these trainings or why we focus on practical safety training is because we believe that with this improved safety awareness and risk perception, there can also be a positive change in the behavior of each individual, of each worker. And I mean, one of the most difficult challenges I saw in my career, that was the gap between the theory and the practice. So what I said before, what I commented in the messenger before, is that most companies are, I mean, very excellent in preparing thousands of pages of instructions or manuals. But when it comes to field implementation and the workers' awareness, then it looks different. So, and why we focus on the practical safety training is that, I mean, it is scientifically proven that 10% of the written text will be remembered. You see there about 20% of what we record acoustically, so what we hear, 30% of what we see, and 50% of what we see and hear in a combination, and 90% we better remember of what we tell and what we really do. So, and this is, for me, a point where, I mean, the question arises why a considerable part of the safety training still takes place in a boring classroom training, reading from mostly overloaded PowerPoint slides. So that is why we want to enforce the practical safety training. So just as a quick summary, why we do the practical safety training is that, first of all, we increase the hazard and risk awareness of the workers. We change the workers' safety behavior because they can try and learn the safety risks. We increase the memory effect of the learning. And I mean, the training modules, what I said before, are designed to the machines, to the tools and the work processes, what the workers find at their real work location later in the field. So, and last but not least, I mean, learning by doing, it guarantees your workers more fun than a classroom training. So, and that all can contribute to reduce your accident rates in the field. So later I will show you some examples or evidence on that. But first, let's talk a little bit on the modules. So what are these modules? I mean, so there are 4 categories where Youngwoo provide safety training modules. The first one is the construction safety. That is the biggest part. Then we also have the industrial safety, the civil safety, and also the virtual reality safety. And some examples here for this confined space. I mean, you see here on the upper left picture, the confined space box. So where workers learn about measuring the oxygen level, harmful gas detection, entry permit procedure, about the forced ventilation, what protective equipment they have to wear. So all this, then another simulator is this one here, the guardrail collapse simulator. So it's an automatic fall experience device. So this guardrail collapsed in front, not 100% that they fall down, but that they feel this shocking moment when the guardrail collapses in front. Because sometimes on site you see workers climbing on the guardrails, leaning over the guardrails, and we just want to show them the risk when they lean over the guardrail, that the guardrail can collapse and what happened to them. So then for the excavation works, you see here the excavation simulator. We focus here on the blind spots, on routine inspections for such device. What are the digging risks, underground dangers, like if you hit cables, piping, what you need to do before. With a underground site survey, something like that. So this will be all simulated here in this modules. Then there's a fall from height simulator. So this is really a fall into opening. I mean, so many times on site you see that there are openings, holes, uncovered walkways where there is a risk of fall from height. So this is also a simulator for the workers where they go up here, they stand here, and then they fell into these soft balls. So just to experience a fall through an opening. The safety harness inspection. So this is for the full body harness, where they do the inspection of the full body harness, where they learn how to wear correctly a full body harness. Then they got hooked up. So later I have a small video for you where you can see how it works. Then they learn about shock absorber, the fall arrestor. So all these devices, what are related when you work at height. So this is one part of this construction safety. I mean, there are a few more. You see here, this electrical safety board. In the entry video, you saw also the cable burn experience. So where workers can see how cable burn starts. We have offer also the chemical safety. So with chemical and hazardous substance training, material safety data sheets. So all hazards and risks when they handling chemicals on site. Then hoist crane for lifting and rigging activities, unbalanced load. There is a sling tension simulator, so with that the workers understand the different angle of the sling has a different impact to the tension in the string. So, and then on the display of this beam, they can see the difference in regards to the different angle they use. So then fire extinguisher training, following the pass, so that they understand how to proper extinguish a fire, what is the emergency procedure if they cannot extinguish the fire. In the video, you saw also the heavy machinery, so the risk of being stuck. I mean, there is on this wall is a soft mat, the worker standing here, and then this device hydraulically moved backwards and stuck the person between the soft mat and this chassis from the machinery. So a lot of things where you can refer then with the workers where they can exercise really the hazards and risks by moving machinery on site. So here's a short video, what you saw from this overcurrent I mean, so this is the cable, a normal cable, and what we want to simulate the workers is the overloading of the power cable by connecting sockets. Sometimes there are grinding machines, drilling machines, whatever are connected on circuit, and then the result, what happened at the start.
It's okay.
Then you see how the fire starts. So this is something what we want to show the workers, that they better understand what is the risk on that. And the same exercise, a practical exercise. That was for an oil and gas refinery. The workers will look up in their safety harness. We train them on so what can happen, what they can do, what device they can use for that, and then also fall into the safety harness, because it's so important that they're not only showing they're wearing a safety harness, but they're wearing it correctly. If they have a free fall, they can hurt if you're not wearing correctly. So then also, I mean, a very big part is hand safety. I mean, if they, with pinch points, nip points, shear points, hazards, hand tools, so how to check hand tools properly. There is also an electrical current leakage on a hand tool, so that they have to inspect properly the electrical hand tools. Hazards and risks with hand tools, so that different modules for that as well. Then a first aid training facility, scaffolding, a big part with starting with the foundation access to the scaffold, the footing base plates. So all this will be trained by the workers. So they run this parkour and need to find the failures, because the trainers simulate some failures and the workers need to find it. And I mean, in practice, it's really fun, because the first one access the ladder here and not checking if it is green or red tagged. Yeah, so this is just the first learning, and they recognize it better on site if they trained it in a safe environment here. Then ladder safety, I mean, in the beginning in the movie you saw this as well. Manual handling is another point here. The correct manual handling technique. I mean, there are boxes with different weights in, so that just that they experience the difference here. And this is how it looks like, or how it can look like. I mean, this is the open installation. It's also a reference there from this ThyssenKrupp project, but this is in Brunei, so it's not the Europe one, it's another one in Brunei. And I mean, there are different styles. You can have an outdoor training facility, you can have this as well as indoor, you can cover this. I mean, we did it in Egypt, we cover with a roof, with a sun protection cover. And I mean, usually the clients use it as a parkour. So you see here, it starts with hand tools, with PPE, with the safety harness and so on. So it's they use it as a basic awareness training for all levels. So which takes maybe approximately 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the group size, what you want to train, how many workers. You can also do specific trainings. You have here, you see the confined space box. So you can also train specific work groups on electrical safety, on confined space, on working at heights, on lifting and rigging. And you can also use it for rescue exercise training. I mean, you can train a real rescue from height, a rescue from a confined space. Then the training can up maybe to 1 day excessive training for those specific work groups. And we have experienced this in I mean, you see at the Brunei. We have also experienced one of these training centers in Malaysia, here in Pengerang at the Rapid site. This was installed by Siemens and now handed over to Petronas. Then we have one in Egypt, or not one, we have 3 in Egypt. We have a couple of ones in Singapore. So we have already installed a lot of these training centers here in the region as well. And just to show you here the indoor, that is an example for the indoor installation. This is an example for the container installation. If you are limited with space, or if you need, if you have small construction sites where maybe you have just 3 to 4 months something to do, and then you need to relocate it to the next one. So it's also can be offered in a kind of this a container solution. And what we want to do, and what we need to tell our clients, is that they personalize the training stations. So they need to include their permit to work system, their risk assessments, their job safety analysis, their specific logout tagout procedure, what they use in the company. They can also integrate the root causes and learning from from recent incidents what they had at their workplace location. So it's not, I mean, we give the basic, let's say, but the specifics that should come from the clients when they introduce their documents and when they train specifically to their safety procedures. And then another business here is this industrial safety training modules. And so this is just another sector where Youngwoo provides trainings. I mean, you see here for on the left, starting on the left with the silo cleaning, strainer cleaning. This is more for maintenance works. So how you do repair works, maintenance, like strainer cleaning activities, something like this. So that can be all trained also for the industrial parts. So this is really where workers train here in a safe environment. I mean, you see here, they need to open the flange. There is a water spray nozzles in. So if they're not wearing the safety glasses, if they open first the front screw, not the back screw, the water nozzles will spray them. So it's really that they learn it in a safe environment, the hazards and risks on site. So then for the process steam, I mean, this is more a simulation because this is for accidents, what we cannot simulate in practice because it's too So what you see here on the monitor, so that was a real accident that company had. It was a very severe accident with a huge explosion. So the workers get trained on the root cause analysis of that accident. So that is something what we not want to simulate and do again. So we just simulate here on the screen, and then we also tell them about what the company has now done different to prevent a reoccurrence of such accident. So then gas leakage is another thing for the industrial safety training modules. And then I mentioned before the civil training modules. So what does it mean when we talk about civil safety training modules? This is more a safety training school that has been established, one in Korea, that is for the kids safety, where kids classroom training, they can go here, they can learn how to, the traffic risks with entry exit points when they go in the bus, then this bus is simulating accidents, so how the kids can go out of this bus in case of accident, where to watch on the street, so something like that. So that also kids learn it. And then storm typhoon is something for the natural disaster, simulators for hurricane, typhoon, flooding. So you see here where they get trained. It's more how to prepare before and after such an emergency situation, because most of the people are in panic after such an emergency situation. But if you have once done it, your panic is not that worse. Earthquake is there's a container here, and this base plate is simulating an earthquake, so it's really shaking. And I mean, I tried it, and if somebody tells you go under the table or in the door opening here, it's not that easy if you try to do this with a 7.0 earthquake. Yeah, so it's really something different if somebody tells you or if you do by yourself. Then also for the traffic, that is one section where we also supply training simulators for traffic accidents, tunnel safety. So, and the last one here you see is also for the private sector for home safety. So that is included as well in this school, because this training safety school is open for the public. It's driven by the Korean government. And they have on different levels. On the first level, they have the kids training. On second level, they have the private safety. So where also parents can visit, just the public people can visit and learn about dangers fire, what device they can use, what control measures with smoke detectors and so on. So this is just the part where Youngwoo also provide for the civil safety training modules. And then at least also the virtual reality. So that was the fourth section, what I said before. The virtual reality, so typically Youngwoo used this in 3 scenarios. So the first one is what I said before, is it's too risky to simulate in the practical safety module, like the demolition works, gas explosions, chemical disasters. Nobody wants to simulate that. So that is why when we use the virtual reality for that. Then in the second is that we also combine it with the practical safety module to get a more realistic impression by using the virtual environment. So you can imagine when you have this fall from height experience and you're wearing, in addition, the virtual reality, you see that you're working on a scaffold environment and physically you feel a real fall from height. So that gives you a much more realistic impression on that. And then the third one is as a supportive training. So we also use it then for safety induction training. Here's the focus more on the hazard spotting and select the correct control measures for the job. So that is the part of this virtual reality where I prefer to combine it with the practical safety training module. And then I think some interesting part is then in the
Singapore is aiming to
is the let's say the success or the customer feedback on how the practical safety training can help to reduce your accident rate. And I mean, here on the right side, you can see the measurable success of integrating practical safety training facility from the construction sites, from the mega projects from Siemens in Egypt. So it really drops down the accident rate, the total recordable incident rate here at this project to a significant level. So that was the point where we started with the training center. So in September 16, we implemented the 3 training centers, and from that moment or that point onwards, we could really achieve a good improvement on bringing the accident rates down. That was also then awarded in 2018 with the Werner von Siemens Award as a good appreciation for a new approach in the construction, in the field of construction. And then I would also like to share with you a short feedback. This comes from the Singaporean news, and it's reporting for practical safety training center in Singapore, what Youngwoo has established.
Improve worksite safety through a new training center targeting the construction industry. A key feature of the new school is experiential learning by using augmented and virtual reality. The launch follows Singapore's ratification of the Occupational Safety and Health Convention 2 days ago. Manpower Minister Josephine Teo said that the workplace safety and health remains a key priority. She added that the ratification reaffirms Singapore's commitment to provide safe and healthy work conditions for workers. Cheryl Lin with this report.
This would be a grave situation if it happened in real life. Thankfully, it's a training simulation at the new construction safety school. Such scenarios were developed with a focus on experiential learning. The machines simulate what it's like to be suspended in the event of a fall, and even what that fall would feel like. These are vivid experiences that can't be taught in a classroom.
And that sense of reality is what makes training like these a lot more different, rather than just giving our workers a piece of paper and reading it. But I think the feeling and sensation is very different, so they are more aware, acutely aware of why housekeeping is important, why putting safety barriers are important, why observing certain safety protocols are also important. This experience will make...
I think this video can be also shared because it's available on YouTube. So just to shorten a bit the time because we're running out of time a little. So I think that video can be shared after. And I mean, last but not least, I mean, the effectiveness, this depends largely on how good we are in transferring this knowledge to the workers, and with this increasing their awareness for safety to change on long term their behavior. So it's really focused on the behavioral change of the workers. And yeah, I just want to share this, and maybe if you're interested, or if you want to get more information about this practical solution or best practice sharing, then you can also message me later on, or just contact the organization committee here. Okay, thank you very much. And yeah, I think the slides will be also shared.
Well, thank you very much, Matthias, for the wonderful sharing with us. So there is a question posted by Iris Yam. So I think she is asking about apart from the training to alter the workers, the correct procedures and important cautions measures in some kind of work, can share what kind of innovative technologies to apply in construction industry that helps to minimize the human to expose in risk in these trends of stocking smart, innovative, IoT, and so forth.
Sorry, the question is
I think she's trying to ask what kind of innovative technologies to apply in construction industries that helps to minimize the humans to expose to this kind of constructions associated risks.
Okay, I mean, what we try with these modules is really to take the work process or the machinery or the equipment, what they use on site, to train them in a specific area. So usually the training centers are in front of a construction site or in front of the work location. And then before they start with the work, they have to go through it. And the thing is really to take these parts, this machinery or these processes, what they have to do later in reality, into the training part, and then train them exactly on that machines, hand tools, what they are used on site later on.
All right.
So that is this what we do. And I mean, also there's a lot of standard modules what Youngwoo can provide from former projects. But the main focus for Youngwoo is really to understand what is the hazard and risk in your specific workplace, and then come up with a solution for your specific case. So that is the main purpose or the main advantage of this.
So do you all have any other branch in Malaysia? Or have you set up any?
No, right. No, I mean that's
you come over here, and I think after this we will discuss with Moshpa and see whether we can bring in this kind of technologies, innovative technologies to Malaysia. This is very interesting. So I believe we should go towards these directions and to improve the use of technologies, the simulations and all that.
Right.
So
Hey, CK. Well, I am Matthias, manager, agent. You can tell me what you want. It's okay.
Ho is here.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Matthias, for your sharing. And there's no other questions posted by the participants. So I think we should move on to the next speaker. Thank you very much for your time. So please give a thumbs up for our third speaker, Mr. Matthias, or claps or thumbs up. All right, thank you. So let us welcome the next speaker, the fourth speaker of the day. It is a great pleasure for us to welcome engineer Dr. Yiu-wah from Hong Kong. So he's a professional fire engineer, also a former senior fire service divisional officer of Hong Kong. So let's join me in welcoming engineer Dr. Ng. Are you here?
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah, you may share.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very clear. And we are waiting for your slide share.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Thank you for those who are still staying with us. We have 70.
Yeah.
All right. So just be slightly patient for the speakers to.
I'm working on the.
Yeah, just take your time. Don't worry about it. So if you have any questions, please don't feel shy to post it in the chat room or chat box. We will turn the mic for you. So if you have any question, would like to ask our speaker, so you may do so. Feel free to do so. We encourage all of you to participate actively. All right, so we can see the slides. So just have to enlarge.
Can you see?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So I hand over the floor to you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm going to share some experience, some knowledge on the fire hazard on LPG fueled vehicle repair workshop. Okay. Before I start, I would like to talk about something, give some introduction on alternative fuel vehicles. Actually, LPG is one of the alternative fueled vehicles. Alternative fueled vehicles are vehicles which use fuels other than petrol and diesel. The reason why, because environmental concern, high oil prices, and potential for heat oil. So the development of clean alternative fuels and advanced power system for vehicles have become a highly priority for many governments and vehicles manufacturers around the world. According to the information I got from the government, from the government website, as of July 2010, more than 40 million alternative fuel and advanced technology vehicles have been sold worldwide, compared around 1 billion cars and light trucks in use in the world in 2010. These figures I obtained from the government website of Hong Kong. And what's the advantages of using alternative fuels? The advantages are here. We can reduce the reliance on the petroleum, and the more important, we can improve the air quality by lowering the emission of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, and nitrogen oxide. Actually, there are several types of alternative fuels around the world. They are the commonly found are as follows: LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, natural gas, biodiesel, battery-powered electric, and hybrid electric. So today my topic is focused on the liquid LPG. So regarding the other fuels, I think I don't have any time to give some introduction here. So let me move on to the LPG. It's just a general revision. LPG is a byproduct of natural gas processing and crude oil refining, and produce a fuel vehicle emission than petrol and diesel. In Hong Kong, LPG is a good choice as alternative fuel because the import, storage, and road transport infrastructures are already there. Nowadays in Hong Kong, almost all licensed taxis in Hong Kong are LPG fueled. And how about the registered public light buses? 60% of them are using LPG. And the physical properties of the LPG is a colorless, odorless, and non-toxic. But however, with over-inhalation, LPG will cause suffocation. So for this reason, a strong strength agent is added to the LPG before delivery to the customers. And also PG is a high performance fuel that can produce a large amount of energy on combustion. At room temperature and atmospheric pressure, LPG is in gaseous form, so it can easily liquefy by increasing pressure. About the composition of LPG, normally comprises butane and propane in the ratio of 70% and 50% respectively. And relative density, so LPG can be in vapor form and also can be in liquid form. So if in liquid form, the water is 0.57 to 0.58 to 1. And for in vapor form to air is 1.9 to 2.11. The most important thing is that LPG vapor is heavier than air. So this is very dangerous. This property has important safety implications because gas will sink to the ground and accumulate at lower level space, such as basement, ditches, etc., and very difficult to disperse. A lot of hazard here, so we have to take very concern here. Explosive limit, the range is from 2% to 10%. The lower explosive limit is 2%, and the higher explosive limit is 10%. And also, as I mentioned before, the LPG is a mixture of propane and butane. So in the vehicle, if the LPG is used in vehicle, the propane proportion is higher. Is higher, and LPG is vaporized more rapidly than petrol. When LPG is stored in a fuel tank and associated fuel pipe at elevated pressure, say up to 10 bar, any leakage will immediately vaporize and disperse. So the rapid expansion resulting from the conversion of liquid propane into vapor will cause severe cooling of the gas. So anyone exposed to the vapor cloud or in contact with metal surface may receive cold burns. So we have to take care of this. And also, what are common types of scenarios associated with leakage of LPG? Well, I make a summary here, just a 6 scenarios. The first one is leakage inside a building without fire. The second one is leakage inside a building with fire. Another one is leakage inside the building without fire at first. But when during operation, there's ignition and cause explosion. This is really most dangerous. And also the leakage outside building without fire, leakage outside building with fire, and also the same as above, leakage outside building without fire at first, but ignition occurs during operation. So among these 6 scenarios, which one you consider the most dangerous? Which one you consider the workers or the operator need to pay much concern on the safety? So let's come back to the hazard and risk of the LPG. Before I move on, I'd like to give some a general definition on hazard and risk. Hazard means something which with the potential to cause harm. With potential to cause harm. The second one is the risk. Risk is a measure of likelihood that harm from a particular hazard will occur, taking into account a possible severity of the harm. This means the consequence. So the common hazards associated with the leakage of LPG can be generalized as follows: explosion, fire, toxicity, and human error. So for the just talk about the hazard, and now let me move on to the risk generated from the leakage of LPG, such as follows: workers in the vehicle repair workshop, public firefighters, maybe when the firefighters are called upon to tackle the incident, would be exposed to a gas-filled environment. This kind of risk. And also, in case there are leakage, the nearby properties will be endangered by fire and explosion hazards. And also, there's maybe something is our control is the source ignition. In case there are leakage, there may be some source ignition in the nearby, but we don't aware that it's very dangerous. The leakage, leak gas was spread into various parts of building, such as pit, ditches, because the LPG, as I mentioned before, is heavier than air. So if in this leakage, the gas will accumulate at a low level, pitch and ditches. So we have to pay particular attention to this. Now, let's give an example of why we so concerned about the LPG explosion concerning the LPG fueled vehicle. Let me see an example, an incident which occurred in Hong Kong in 26 April 2015. The incident occurred around in the afternoon, few o'clock 40. A garage of about 200 square meters on ground floor of a residential building for repairing taxi using clean fuel LPG in Hong Kong. In this incident, 3 people were killed and 9 others injured. But at the time, from the news source, the cause of explosion is unknown, but actually not released by the government, and might be due to the flammable clean refrigerant composed LPG, but maybe also due to the leakage of LPG from the LPG tank. Because regarding the clean refrigerant, I'm not going to give a detailed presentation here because it's another topic. Because in many clean refrigerant, the components of the clean refrigerant is using with the LPG components. So let us look at the picture. So the pictures here. You can see it is a 6-story. Upper floors is a residential flat. People living here, and the workshop. Workshop is here, just here below ground. You can see the explosion. The fire explosion is so serious. The whole ground floor, the whole garage was severely damaged, and also the upper floors where the people are living, it's also severely damaged. You can see the fire explosion and the fire spread outward, and then the window here, although also severely damaged. You can see the explosion is so serious, and there's for about 200 square meter area, and here's the close look up. You can see the workshop here, the garage here, and also the domestic building severely damaged. So you can see the explosion was so serious. But we would like to know how serious is that? How much LPG had been leaking from the vehicle. So on this issue, I've done some simulation here, and let me show you. But I'm not going to explain in details here because of time limitation today. So after the explosion, I based on the scenario to do the simulation using the computer software FRES. These types of computer software is was explosion simulation. So we have done two types of simulation: the cross grip and the fly grip. The first one is cross grip, and the size is here, and also the grip size is the total grip size of 8,424 cells. And the leakage rate, we assume that assume that a 200 square meter workshop and generate the LPG generate 21 kilopascal in 200 square meter vehicle workshop, and the mass flow rate is 5.5 grams per second under standard condition of 1 ATM, and the temperature is 293 K. We also assume that the leakage rate for 5 kg LPG within 15 minutes, that is 900 seconds, is assumed. So we assume this scenario, the 5 kg LPG leakage within 15 minutes. Let us see the result. And also, this is a workshop on the workshop on ground floor. We assume that there's a rolling substance enclosed first. The whole garage was fully enclosed, and the feed ignition time, there are 300 seconds, 600 seconds, and 900 seconds after leakage. And 2 cases we have to simulate. One is with the door closed, and one is the door open. This is when we when the leakage accumulated to 0.2 bar, and then we ignite. We ignite the LPG. We activate the ignition and get the result. So from this two captured pictures here, so I'm not going to explain the detail, but I want to highlight here, the main points here. You can see at 900 here is a 900 second, and here is a 600 second, and here is a 300 second. And you can see due to the with the time due to time lapse, more LPG, the concentration is higher. So the explosion, the temperature is also high. More LPG inside, the concentration is high. So you can see for this one, because there has been a delay in activation of the ignition time, you can see the temperature even higher than this one. So after that, we will do another simulation using 5 grip, to see ensure to check whether the outcome is real or not. We use the same dimension, and the group size is more smaller. The total cells is 1,657,660 cells. And also the mixing volume, we also increase the mixing volume. Therefore, scenario 1, the mixing volume is 1 cubic meter. Second one is 3.37 cubic meter, and the third one is 8 cubic meter. So you can see there are different volume here. Just at least the concentration and the quantity are different. So you can see from here the time here. You can see the temperature. The red one is the temperature, where the concentration here. The temperature and related to the concentration, you can see. And this one, the V2, 3.375 cubic meter, and you can see the temperature and the size of fire is bigger. And the final one is the 8 cubic meter. You can see the temperature and the size of fire and the size of explosion is more bigger. So these two simulations, we are actually the purpose of this simulation is we want to find out how much concentration, if the concentration has had any effect on the temperature and also the explosion. Because we all know that if more LPG, the temperature will be high. But how? So you can do the simulation to show that. So from the observation of cross grip and the 5 grip simulation, the maximum overpressure result from the cross grip slightly lower than that of the 5 grip. And the turbulence for cross grip, turbulence cannot be effectively captured like that of 5 grip because of the leftist last scale of the cross grip. A stable pattern in high temperature full field in large scale scenario can only be obtained through the cross grip. So 5 grip can produce more detail in the full field. For comparison, cross grip and 5 grip on the explosion of LPG flare software can reflect the results in different aspects, but more accurate prediction can be obtained in 5 grip simulation. So the results are more or less the same, but we can see it more clear when using the 5 grip. Now, after doing simulation, let us move on. Let's move on to see how to mitigate the hazard, mitigate the risk. According to guidelines in Hong Kong, the government issued by government, for LPG vehicle workshop licensed by the government, they need to fulfill some requirements. The first one is about the the layout. Because there's no English version, it's just the Chinese version in Hong Kong, published by in the government website. So there's a Chinese clarity here. let me give some explanation here. This is the layout of a LPG filter workshop. It's the engine. It's the engines, and this area is parking the LPG filter vehicles. And this one is a gas detector, and this is exhaust fan here. And also here is the fire extinguisher, dry powder fire extinguisher. So if there are any wetting or any cutting of the activities here, the meter distance should not be less than 3 meters here from here. So it's a designated area for parking the LPG vehicle for repair. So you can see there's a requirement here. And also the exhaust system. There's a requirement for the exhaust system. And also since there's also no Chinese English version, only Chinese version. So I cannot audit, but I would like to give some explanation here. You can see this the exhaust duct. Yeah, this is inlet. The size is not less than 150 millimeter. The inlet, and also the efficiency. The efficiency is 500 liters per minute for the exhaust rate. And this is exhaust duct here, and this is a motor. This is a motor, and the flow rate is not less than 5 meters per second. And also here, if there's an upper floor, there's an upper floor above the garage. The outlet here, the outlet of the exhaust pipe, there should be a minimum distance of not less than 1.5 meters. So there's any opening above the workshop. There's a standard requirements in Hong Kong. Now, after talking about the layout, because the requirements they are stipulated in the guidelines for LPG vehicles, filter workshop issued by the government is consists of more than 10 pages. So I'm not going to explain one by one here, but I'd like to take out some important points, and I find in the guidelines and also from the SHEA. The competence. First one is apart from complying the requirement for the layout and the facility to be installed in the vehicle workshop, there's some software. So when we're talking about software, I mean people. The competence requirement for working on LPG fuel workshop. So the personnel should be trained and competent in the use of LPG as low vehicle fuel. So only trained and competent persons are allowed to do the work on the LPG fuel vehicle. And no one should remove any part of the system or empty of gas free the fuel tank unless they have received appropriate training and are competent to do the work. And also the people should trained in the safety expert LPG system and do the work. If there are adjacent work, there are other works adjacent to the LPG workshop. So in Hong Kong, you can see some of the large workshops. There's some vehicles parked inside. So the trained people should be allowed to carry out the work on the LPG vehicle where the work is adjacent to and could otherwise affect the LPG system of the vehicle. And for this one, there's some information about the competence. So you can find this information from the website here, HSE, the UK. Anyone working on LPG vehicle must know where the system components are. They should be familiar with the components of the vehicle. And be aware that some LPG, whereas others contain its vapor. In either case, LPG will be at the elevated pressure. So we should assume that there are LPG inside the vehicle, inside the fuel tank, inside the piping at the elevated pressure. We should be very careful and pay particular attention to that. And what precautions should be taken? And talking about the procedures, always assume that an LPG system contains LPG or its vapor until it has proved that otherwise, especially where a vehicle has been involved in an accident or components are to be removed for scrapping or recycling. Do not do any work that may affect the LPG system unless a suitable and sufficient assessment of risk has been carried out, and precautionary measures taken to minimize the risk. And also to provide a safe location for parking, as shown in my plan in the several slide before. Safe location for parking and working on LPG vehicle. They should be away from the source of heat, open flames or other source of ignition, and also should be parked away from the openings, the ground like drains and pits. And clearly identify each LPG vehicle with suitable position site as a reminder people to people working on the vehicle and anyone in the vicinity, especially those who may be carrying out hot work. Provide plants and equipment that is suitable for repairing of the LPG vehicle. Don't take vehicles with leaking LPG system inside the workshop. So in case there's leakage from the vehicle, the vehicle should not be taken inside into the workshop, because it's very dangerous, because the LPG will accumulate inside the enclosed environment. And also need to train the staff, what to do in case of emergency. For any work that may have potential to affect the LPG system, we need to shut off of the tank should be closed, and the LPG fuel in the surface supply should be exhausted. When doing so, take the following precautions. People should wear protective equipment, PPE, to prevent cold burns, eye damage, and the discharge of static electricity. Carry out the work which involve breaking into or removing components from the LPG system in a safe place and in open air. Before doing so, disconnect vehicle battery and display warning sign, such as no smoking around the area. And empty the LPG fuel lines from the tank to the engine by isolating the tank and running the engine until it stops. But even doing this action, you should bear in mind that there may be some still residual LPG inside, because this procedure will not remove the LPG from the line between the filling pond and the tank. So if the LPG is likely to be affected but cannot be isolated or empty, consider alternative means or physically protect it, such as the system should only be removed by approved installers. And also additional precautions to be considered. Vehicle inspection pits. The hazard of working with LPG vehicles over or near the inspection pits are identical to those involving petrol vehicles, and the same precautions apply. Therefore, don't carry out any work which affect the LPG system over and close to the vehicle inspection pit or drain, where dangerous concentration of vapor could accumulate. For electrical system, including the fixed lighting in the pit, must be of a category consistent with dangerous substance and explosive with regulations on classification. Portable and battery powered tools, including the hand lamps used in the pit, should either be air powered or explosion protected. And in all cases, the risk assessment should demonstrate that they are safe to use. So in the garage, there should be some hot work involved. So for hot work means welding, burning, infrared heating, or cutting, or something. So in case such hot work is involved, maintain a separation between the area to be heated and the LPG fuel tank or fuel lines. Provide a heat resistant shield, or empty or gas fill the affected parts of the LPG system, especially where the work is being carried out close to the tank of the fuels or the fuel lines. Always consult the vehicle manufacturer before placing an LPG vehicle in a paint drying or curing oven. If local heating is not possible, consider emptying the LPG line and removing the fuel tank before subjecting the vehicle to higher temperatures. Since this is why we all know that the LPG is flammable. LPG tank emptying, removal, and reassembly. LPG tank emptying for replacement, repair, or revalidation, recycle, or before a vehicle is scrapped must be carried out in a safe place and by suitable trained and competent person using appropriate equipment. Store LPG tanks that have been emptied and gas filled in a clearly marked and secured area. They should preferably be above ground and in open air, away from the drains and pits, and clear of combustible materials and source ignition. And keep LPG tank in their mounting or orientations, top to prevent rotation with the relief valves unobstructed. For emergency procedures, train all staff in emergency arrangement for events such as an uncontrolled release from an LPG system, a fire in the vicinity of an LPG vehicle, or people suffering from cold burns. When LPG leak is detected on a vehicle inside a building, close the tank, isolation valve, and if it is safe to do so, move the vehicle to a safe place in open air. Evacuate the building and don't allow anyone back until it has been declared safe. If a leak is uncontrollable or catch fires, call the emergency service. So, there are also other means to mitigate the fire hazard or LPG fuel vehicle in a workshop. Despite a lot of procedure we have to I mentioned above. Here are the following. The responsibilities to mitigate the hazard based on the following. The first one is the controlling authority. The second one is the operators, and the third one is the craftsman. Regarding the controlling authority, what they can do, I think they can issue code and guidance notes to the operator, and also the most important thing is step-up inspection. Step-up inspection because some of the operator may not follow the guidelines or code. We are against the code, so we take up step the inspection. For the operator should strictly follow the code and guidance notes issued by the authority, employed to train the craftsmen. And for craftsmen, this should be carried out the work should be carried out by the registered and skilled craftsmen. And regular training should be provided for the craftsmen to enhance their competence and proficiency in handling LPG fueled vehicle. And also, the equipment used in the process for repair must be compatible with LPG fueled vehicle. Now comes to the conclusion. The consequences of fire hazards of LPG explosion in an LPG fueled vehicle repair workshop are serious and should not be underestimated by the controlling authority, operator, and craftsmen. You can see the picture I showed you. The incident in Hong Kong in 2015 is very serious. This is my reference here. So thank you very much. This is all my presentation.
All right. Thank you very much, Doctor. So, is there any other questions from the floor? Any questions? So let's give half minute, 30 seconds, if there is, before we proceed on to the next speaker. Well, I think there's no questions posted, and it was a very informative slide. So thank you very much for your sharings, Engineer Dr. Ng. So you may stop sharing your slide.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think Dr. Ng,
Yeah,
Is
hello.
it the slide can be shared to us, then we can post at the Facebook for everyone sharing this information, because the control measure is very good for us for reference.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I will check the Facebook from Dr. Ho. Let's see where. Actually, I don't know where's the Facebook of the
No
Facebook.
problem. I will PM you later.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you for taking your time speaking to us on the topic of fire hazard of LPG fuel vehicle repair workshops. All right, so let's put a thumbs up or claps to our fourth speaker for today. All right, let's move on to the last speaker of today. And he is the Occupational Health Doctor of NIOSH, National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, Malaysia. So it is a great pleasure for us to invite him today for the topic of, he's going to talk about OSH networking, right? So let's join me in welcoming Dr. Arif. Dr. Arif, are you here?
Hello, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, very clear.
Okay, let me share my slide first.
Hello, Dr. Arif.
Yes, hello.
How are you?
Are you fine?
Handsome hari ni.
Weekend, biasalah. Okay. Okay, for today's topic, I think we will switch a bit towards something very general. And it is very important for us to think about this, because I think this is one part of the way or the preventive measures that we want to implement towards our workplace, to the workers, especially with this uncertainty of COVID pandemic that we are having right now. Okay, so before I start, I would like to thank the organizer for organizing this very wonderful webinar, and also inviting me from NIOSH as one of the speakers. Okay, I will talk about OSH in teleworking today. Okay, let us start first. Okay, for my outline of the my talk today, I will talk a bit about introduction on about telework, and then we'll see how we want to assess the job suitability to choose whether we can do as a telework or not, and then what are the challenges of telework, and before that we will see what is the employer and the worker's responsibility towards implementing telework, and the last one is what is the future of telework later on with this current pandemic, and also with the future any other pandemic that emerge as well later on. Okay, first of all, as we can see, COVID-19 pandemic already changed the landscape of the global economy. Not only the economy, but also from the world of the work. Most of us cannot attend to the work because we have to implement, to obey to the national orders and guidelines, to do lockdowns, movement control order, for example. Okay, then this will impose all of us to stay at home, just to prevent the spread of the COVID-19. And as we can see, more workforce will need to work from home and to work remotely at least. Okay, when we talk about telework, most people will think about working from home, but for me, because of this current pandemic is still not finished yet, and we can see that some of the countries are having like a second wave and the third wave. So this high certainty means that we might have to telework from our own office. If, for example, if you want to attend or held a meeting, then we cannot get into one meeting together with more than 20 pax, for example. Okay, maybe because of we cannot implement the standard operating procedure, okay, with the physical distancing and so on. So maybe we might have to do the meetings by telework, at least in our office, but maybe not that much challenges as to compare with working from home. Okay, and then as I said just now, in line with the advice from the World Health Organization, that many steps need to be taken to contain the spread of the current pandemic. Okay, and one of the measures is by reducing the contact, face-to-face contact between the people, and one of it is by teleworking. Okay, and then teleworking during pandemic may require the worker to work in a full-time basis. Okay, if you want to compare previously, maybe some of us is already do some telework even before the pandemic, and maybe it's not the full-time basis, but it's only a part-time basis. But whenever the pandemic struck us, not only in Malaysia, not only in Asia Pacific, but also to the world, most of us have to really quickly, rapidly change our working style, working norms into full-time basis, working at home, or maybe telework in our office. Okay? And then, as we all know, there are a lot of challenges and it is imposed in terms of teleworking, despite the advantage and opportunities from teleworking. Okay? Some of us might be happy with teleworking initially, but here later on, when when we do all this teleworking at home, for example, for 1 month and 2 months, we can see that there is a lot of side effects, especially the health effects, that we may impose once we too long isolated and everything at home. Okay, I think with the current situation, most of the countries, not to say most of the countries, maybe part of the countries in the world have already managed to contain, to control the spread of the disease. And unfortunately, we can see that the countries that already can control the pandemic situation in their country, they already have started to get the second phase. Okay, this is what I said, that COVID-19 is still we're still in research on that. We still don't have any firm information about how to contain it, how to treat it, okay, in terms of how to prevent the spread. Okay, even as we can see, the vaccination also is the latest one is only on phase 3 trial. It's not yet given to the people in the world. Okay, then this uncertainty makes us think that we might have another episode of wave later on. Then we might have to continue telework. Maybe not from home, but maybe from our own workspace in the workplace. Okay? As we can see, when the second phase of the pandemic started, okay, or maybe we can already start to decrease or control in the numbers of the cases in our country. So most of the essential sectors will start to operate, and then sectors need to comply with strict infection and preventive measures. And with this complete strict infection preventive measures, this can lead for us to telework, although we are like a different room in one workplace. Okay, and then there's a lot of high certainty for this phase, and at the end of the day, teleworking still remains necessary to us. Okay, and then most important point is the challenges faced by the policymakers, not only for the policymakers but also us as the OSH practitioners, and also how we can advise to the employers. Okay, where how we can continue protecting the health and safety of the people or our workers without even damaging the economy, without even get our workforce much smaller than before. Okay, without retrenching people. Okay, without cutting the wages and everything. So this is the thing that is very, very difficult, and this is that we might have to plan what is the preventive measures onwards. Okay, there is a lot of survey were done during the initial part of the world pandemic before this. I think starting from March, most of the countries already have spikes in COVID-19 cases, and there's a lot of, as I said just now, there's a lot of survey, and one of it is from the UK, which is under IES Working at Home Wellbeing Survey. They have some preliminary findings on this. I haven't seen yet the final report on this survey. This survey came out, the preliminary report came out in April 2020, and as you can see some of the findings, they say that there is a significant increase in musculoskeletal complaints, okay, and especially at the neck and shoulder and the back. Okay? This refers to more towards sitting, doing telework and everything. Okay? And then half of the respondents reported not being happy with their current work-life balance. Okay, as we can see, although they are working at home, they have their time, maybe can wake up late, maybe can have the breakfast during working, okay, don't need to go shower first, okay, but they still have to taking care of their family, okay, especially their child, because of the closure of the nursing care facilities or the schools, okay. And then 1/3 of them feel isolated. They don't have friends to talk together, okay. They work alone, okay. And over a fifth worried about their job security. Okay? This is more towards the economy. When there is no productivity, when there is no production towards the economy, then there is no income, then they have to close their premise. Okay? And another finding that they say that there's a significant increase in the symptoms of fatigue, okay? Possibly as a consequence of long and irregular working hours. I think initially most of us think that fatigue is not an issue, when you work at home, because you don't have to drive to work, you don't have to use a lot of your muscle in the body to work, just like sitting down and do your works, okay? But they don't see that sitting down in a prolonged time, in a prolonged period, and also doing some teleworks like a video device unit for a prolonged time can also cause to fatigue, not only to the physical fatigue, but also to the mental fatigue, okay? And at the end, it's a poor sleep and increased use of exhaustion, okay? This is a combination factors, not only because of the work, maybe because of the work-life balance, and also maybe related to the prolonged sedentary lifestyle during the lockdown or working at home. As for the division of terms, there is a lot of interchangeably using terms to relate to this teleworking, okay? One of it is they say there's teleworking interchange with working from home, and then the same got like telecommuting or remote work or telework remotely, okay? So I think this is the two best definition for us right now, okay? Teleworking, where from the name, is the use of the information and communication technologies, or we call it ITs, by using internet access, by using computer, laptops and everything, to perform work outside the employer's premises, okay? Or maybe inside the employer's premises, but not together, all of our colleagues, okay? This is might be not specific, because maybe we can do teleworking from home, maybe we can do teleworking from other sites, okay? Or maybe we can do teleworking from our own premises, okay? And then when we say about work from home, this is as simple as telework at home, where we use all the technologies to work at home in our own premises. Okay, telework. How can we say that the job is suitable to be done as in telework? Okay, there's two research that we can see from the report, as you can see from ILO report on teleworking. The research finding is that the factors that determine whether the job potentially can be performed by telework, we have to see on the economic and occupational structure. And the most important thing is access to the internet. Not only having access, but also having a good continuous access of internet, not a patchy one. And also whether the workers can own a personal equipment, or maybe can be given by the company to use all the equipment for telework. Okay? So all in all, from these two findings, they said that the amenability of jobs to working from home increases with the level of economic development. For example, with the country that may rely on, that have to rely only on manufacturing, agriculture, construction, and also tourism, where the business is more towards physical contact, they are less able to do teleworking. While, as you can see, the countries that rely more towards information technology, insurance, okay, office-based works, much easier for them to decide on whether they can ask the employees to do teleworking at home or any telework at a remote area. Okay, these are some of the way or of the guide to assess the job suitability. First of all, we have to identify the job function and tasks. Maybe we can a little bit being innovative and creative in terms of planning how the job can be done at home, or maybe telework remotely. Okay, just to compare with the new norm. Okay, if let's say we can just have some tweak towards our job tasks that can be done through telework, then it is good. Okay, and then to assess the infrastructure and tools, we have to see whether the infrastructure, for example, the workstations, the equipments, computer, laptops is functioning well. Okay, and whether this is all together have to come into one thing, so that this is the thing that can make this job suitable for telework. Okay? And then again, assess the legal requirement, obligations, and potential liability. I think this is may have to see whether there's some countries that have mentioned about some legal requirements towards teleworking. Okay, I think in Malaysia we don't have it yet, but most of us will rely on the OSH 1994, the very general terms where the employers have to take care of the health, safety, and well-being of their employees. Okay, but maybe some of other countries, like for example Singapore, have their own legal requirements towards teleworking. Okay, this is catered to some countries. Okay, And we have to assess the health and safety of the workers towards the job task. This is mainly our job as the health and safety practitioner. Okay, I will discuss it more later on. What is the component of the health and safety that we have to assess before, during, and after we ask them to do telework. And last but not least is to assess any potential physical and mental health concern, because I think physical, for example, ergonomics is the most common recognized challenges faced by our teleworkers. Not to say teleworkers, our workers who telework at home, and also mental health concern, as we can discuss later on. Okay, there's a lot of telework challenges that we need to think of before we ask our workers to work remotely or to work from home. Okay, these are the things that actually we have to do during our initial risk assessments. Okay, first of all, communication. I think communication, as we can see, we have a lot of information technology. The current technologies is very, very advanced. Okay. This have enabled and facilitate teleworking actually to compare before. Yet it's still not enough to overcome every single limitation. For example, there might maybe there is some confusion or misinformation on the latest development on the national or company's policy. Okay, for example, maybe some of our workers not good enough, not skilled enough to use the computer. Maybe they can use the computer, but they don't know how to open the apps. Okay, so they maybe not receive the information during the working, the telework process. Okay, so this is some of the important challenges that we need to revise on. Okay, so some of the solution is to designate communication channels. For example, not to give a lot of, not to provide a lot of communication channels, just to provide, for example, emails or WhatsApp group and Facebook group, for example. Okay, only one official group or channels for us to discuss or to receive any official updates from our employer. Okay, and then keep an update up to date on the registry of contact details. Okay, this is most important because sometimes we need to regularly check and also contact our workers. Okay, of course, to communicate regularly to check whether they are working or not, and that's the most important thing. And also to encourage exchange of views and ideas. If, for example, our workers are not suitable enough to work or to work with our own our provided channels to them. Okay, secondly, the challenges is through the equipments and workstation setup. I think this is the most important one, and the one that maybe impose some costs and also some agreement between employers and the workers. Okay, first of all, first and foremost is the lack of the required infrastructure and the equipment. Okay, and the main thing is the IT equipment and also the internet access. Okay, and one of the solution is to provide the required tools and equipment such as access to the internet. Okay, and then ICT equipment and the workstation setup, including the table, the chairs, and this is something that sometimes the employees might see this as a very tardy job because it is not that easy for them to visit every single home of the workers. Okay, so maybe there is another way of risk assessment by checklist that I will show you later on. Okay, and then to adjust the job task accordingly. This is, I said, we need to involve some innovation and creativity to create or to change a bit our job tasks differently to form into the new normal of the working, especially to cater to teleworking. And another challenge is data protection security. This is the most important thing. Previously, during our movement control audit in Malaysia also, not only in Malaysia but also to the world, where we have problems with Zoom also, as we all know. There's a breach in data, breach in confidentiality towards the users. Okay, so the use of technology itself may impose higher risk of cyber attacks and also breach of confidentiality. Okay, so this is very important for us because breach of confidentiality may cause another issues that that would drag our own legal issues later on. Okay, so the solution is to provide data security and to be maintained at all time, and of course a robust system including safe transmission of confidential data outside the workplace, especially between the workers. Okay, And then to provide the protection and security software or applications installed, like for example antivirus, using secured VPN to access the confidential data, okay, and also firewalls, and to consider to provide or to create a policy towards data protection, confidentiality, and also security. Okay. And another big issue is about workers management. There's a lot of issues on trust between managers and workers. Okay, one thing because of there is an absence of face-to-face contact, and then lack of monitoring by the supervisors. Not that easy for every supervisors to supervise every single workers at home, and then the way how supervisors have to supervising their workers on doing job and tasks is not that easy, because it may be through only through like a Zoom, okay, or maybe through calls. So it is not that easy. Okay, and then the solution is to build mutual trust and establish shared responsibilities with workers through open and transparent discussions. Okay, including regular communicating and contacting each other. Okay, maybe to eliminate the issues of trust, the issues of absence, not doing their work is through evaluate their performance and also how they report to us. Okay. And also have to remember to always communicate with them and talking about managing their work-life balance. Okay, not to forget about working time. Most of us, I think, from the initial survey by IES also mentioning about there is poor working times, okay, irregular working times, overwork, and that's the issues that will lead to our workers having fatigue, mental and physically. Okay, so this is the most important thing. This is their requirement also, not only their privilege but also the thing that is obligated by the employers not to disturb them, especially after the office hours. Okay, so the solution is to establish workers' self-discipline and compliance with the agreed working hours. We have to agree on what time is the check-in and the check-out, what time is the rest breaks in between, and also to monitor them, whether we want to know whether they are working or not, or they are keep communicating with us, is to consider deploying online attendance or using email to record work hours. Okay, this is the thing that how we can monitor our workers. Okay, for the health and well-being part, this is the most important thing for us as a OSH practitioner to focus on. Most of the workers will feel isolated, stress, tension, physical and mental fatigue. This is all interchangeable cause. Okay. So some of them may face physical and mental fatigue because of financial issues, okay, because they don't have to work that much, so they cut in their wages. Okay, job insecurity and also feeling uncertainty about their future, not even their future, also but also about their health. Okay, because COVID-19 is, as I said, is not, we don't have a very firm information about how they are spread and how is the treatment. So maybe they were afraid that their family members will get infected and how they can deal with the infected family members. Okay. So the solution is, one of these solutions is to regularly communicate the workers by creating opportunities and medium to express their concerns. Okay, and first and foremost is to ask them to tell us directly if, let's say, they have some health concerns or any concerns about teleworking at home, okay, or teleworking at their workplace. Okay, and then to provide information and tools to support their problems. Okay, maybe some of the company have their own employee assistance program, so this is important also to support them in case they have some problems and also concerns, and to raise awareness on health and well-being by encourage, for example, to stay physically active, to stay healthy, eat well, okay, not to continue sedentary lifestyle at home while doing their work. Okay, for work-life balance, most of us working at home or working lonely by telework, maybe they can maintain a work-life balance, and it's also challenging, especially for those with family care responsibilities. Okay, and there is no actually clear boundaries between work and personal life. Then if, let's say, they have their own home chores, okay, their own responsibilities to take care of their family at home, with the addition of their job tasks for work, then this might intensify their work totally for that particular day, and that can lead to mental and physical fatigue. Okay? So the solution are to set a clear expectation on work hours, okay, to fix their work hours and also their rest breaks, okay, and to set boundaries on the workers' work schedule, okay, and to promote a healthy lifestyle, including regular rest breaks and exercise, eat well, getting a fresh air, okay, moving out around the house while during rest breaks, okay, and then to provide support to workers who experience work-life conflict. Okay, this is the most important thing. We have to provide them with support, because in this new era of technology, much easier for us to support them. And of course, training and development, especially to the workers that have lack of skills and knowledge in technical skills to use the tools and equipments for telework. For example, using the computer, how to access to the internet, using Zooms, using Microsoft Teams, using Microsoft Word or everything. Okay. So this is the thing that we need to train and to develop their skills. Okay. Maybe for the current situation, for the country that already start to enforce to open their essential services, or maybe some of the sectors already open, they can start online training, remote coaching, or peer-to-peer learning and ongoing support. Okay, because once the workers have to work at home because of the lockdown, then it is much worse for us to teach them, to train them on IT, because they don't even know how to open the computer. So that's the problem. Okay. And then policy and directives. I think this is more towards implementation of the effective preventive measures in response to the national orders and directives. Okay, and as we can see currently, the company that already implement work from home or telework policy and practices may be much easier for them. But for the company that never ever start asking their workers to telework, and suddenly they have to rapidly change their work norm into telework, then this is quite difficult for them in transition into telework. Okay, so the solution is to provide up-to-date, reliable, and accessible information on teleworking, and then to collaborate with other stakeholders on the way that can train or give awareness towards our workers on teleworking, and then provide support and engage the workers in policy discussion on teleworking. Okay? This is more towards employer and employees' job. Okay, last but not least is about occupational safety and health. Okay, this is the most important thing that we will have to focus on. There is a abrupt shift to teleworking, especially in this current pandemic, without much consideration to health and safety requirements, mostly because of we don't have much time to prepare on this, because suddenly we have to get the order to lock down and then have to work at home. And then the most common challenges are the ergonomic and also psychosocial risks. Okay, and this may lead to more health and social problems. Sometimes the economic can cause the psychosocial issues, and also psychosocial issues also can cause ergonomic issues. This is vice versa, and also there may be some external sources that can cause both these two, ergonomic and psychosocial risks. And some of the issues are, for example, excessive consumption of alcohol because of stress, tension, okay, prolonged sedentary behavior, every single hours they don't have much to do, okay, then they will go to their kitchen and eat, okay, continuous eat for the whole day, okay, and suddenly someone that before this they don't know how to cook, suddenly they can cook during this lockdown period, okay. And then we have to think about ergonomics of the workstation, okay, prolonged isolation, access to the internet, okay, work-life conflict, and the last one is about burnout and also techno stress because of the technology itself. Okay, some of the solutions. The employees need to review the company safety and health policy. Okay, policy is important, especially for teleworking. Okay, like I said just now, we have to focus on about the work hours, the work time, about the work-life balance, about the compensation later on. If let's say the employees can compensate if there is any injury happen because of telework. Okay. And also to ensure the workers comply with the policy, because if let's say we have the policy, then the workers doesn't comply with the policy, then there's no point we do the policy. Okay? And regularly assess on the risks that the workers may face during teleworking. Okay? This is important because every single risk that may be listed here, maybe not applicable towards your own workplace. Okay? And then to provide information and training on health and safety issues on teleworking, for example, training on ergonomics, how they can do works with a good posture, okay, working in isolation, how to prevent isolation, okay, and then Also important to talk about safety in terms of electrical and fire safety. And at last is the healthy lifestyle to maintain their physical fitness. Okay. So this is the next step. This is not only a one-sided job. This is a collaborative job in between the employers and the workers. Okay, the employers need to consider the workers' perspective in relation to the challenges and opportunities of teleworking. And for the workers, they need to play an active role in planning, decision-making, and implementation, so that the employers will know what is the concern or the problem that may rise from the workers' perspective. And also they need not only to planning and implementation, but to follow the policy that they have been discussed and also put in written later on. Okay, I'll listed a bit some of the employers and the workers' responsibility. Okay, for the employers' responsibility, first and foremost is to consider modifying or developing policy or guidelines on implementing teleworking. Okay, this is not only to protect yourself as the employer, but also to protect the employee. Okay, and to carry out health and safety risk assessment, some of it is the work, whether it can be safely performed by telework, whether adjustment can be made according to the task, agreeing on the working time, okay, and then whether the equipment and tools are suitable, and then to ensure whether the company's equipment is properly taken care and then properly given back to the company without any defects, okay. And then workers will need to have relevant information, instruction and training about their work, and also not only about their work, but also about the risks that they will face later on when they do telework, and also to focus more towards workers' physical and mental welfare. Okay. And for the last part, which is a workers' compensation, there might be some issues on that. Okay. This depends on the national laws and the judicial precedents of the countries. Okay, some of the countries maybe have their own workers' compensation towards telework already printed in the act, or maybe some other countries, for example, Malaysia, we don't have our own compensation towards telework properly implemented yet. Okay, for the workers' responsibility, there's a lot of it. One thing is to protect themselves and others and to cooperate in the implementation of preventive and control measures. Okay, and of course to notify the employee if suffering from any disease or any health problems, physical problems, okay, mental problems. You have to notify the employer so that the employer can provide the support to you. Okay, to comply with the company's policy or guideline on telework, taking own care on safety, health, and well-being. Okay, follow the working time in line with the national working time legislation or the company's policy. Okay, fulfilling the designated duties, not just skip your duties. Okay, taking care of the company's equipment, don't use it for your own leisure. Okay, and then practicing work-life balance and stay active, stay physically fit, implementing healthy lifestyle and everything. Okay, and then always being available and accessible during work hours so that you can maintain a regular contact, regular communication with your own managers or supervisors. Okay, actually there's a lot of checklists for risk assessment on teleworking before we can allow our workers to telework, maybe at home or any other remote areas. Okay, these are some of the example of a checklist by the European Agency for Safety and Health at Work, EU-OSH. Okay, as we can see here, this is only some part of it. Okay, they're focusing on the workplace environment. Okay, focusing on the psychosocial issues. Okay, VDU about the computer that they will use. Okay, and the software and hardware economics. There is a continuation on their checklist that maybe you can check in the website. Okay, not only EU-OSH, there is other sources also that can be used as our reference to create our own checklist in terms of assessing the risk of telework for our workers. Okay, I think this is the practical tips of teleworking set by the Human Factors and Economics of Japan. I think this came out in May 2020. Okay, they list out the 7 practical human factors and ergonomics tips. Okay, first of all, they said to practice the 20-20-20 rule. Okay, when using digital devices for teleworking. 20-20-20 means that every 20 minutes, you take a break, and then during that, after 30 minutes of working, and you take a break for 20 seconds, and during that 20 seconds of break, you try to look away an object about 20 feet away. Okay, so this is just to release your body tension and also your mind tension. Okay? So this is like a regular breaks, but not to say that you have to break for 20 minutes or more. Okay, this is something that is not appropriate for us to do. Okay, secondly, we can alternate between sitting and standing position when using digital device. Okay, most of us will use laptops at home. As we all know that laptops is hard to really put on a proper ergonomic posture by using laptop. Okay, so sometimes some of people will stack some books or maybe have a special table just to elevate the screen of the laptop towards your own level of the eye. Okay, so if let's say that you don't have all of it, okay, then the best thing is to alternate between sitting and standing position frequently when using digital devices. Okay, so this is to avoid having back pain, okay, having any other musculoskeletal disease in any other parts of your body. Okay, and then another thing is to support the arm holding the smartphone with the other hands. Okay, of course, when we are teleworking, we will mostly use our handphones. Okay, so some of the tips here is that you have to support the arm holding the smartphone with the other hand just to decrease the mechanical stress on the shoulder, and then the viewing distance is at least more than 40 cm. This is again to make sure that our muscles of the eye not using that much of strength when try to view the screen of the computer or the mobile phones. Okay, this I said just now, when we're using a laptop, normally we cannot achieve the appropriate level of ergonomic posture. Okay, so we might have to use a stand or a case for tablets or smartphone and try to raise it according to our height of our eye level, or slightly below by placing the device on a stack of books or magazines. Okay, this is to ensure that we are not forcing our neck to flex for a static prolonged period of time, so that we can decrease the incidence of neck pain. Okay, the next one is to use a landscape orientation as a standard when browsing or watching content of digital device. Mostly we can just switch the view into a landscape view, so that is much bigger view for us. Okay, so it's easy by rotating your screen to landscape mode, so that can increase the character size and make the content appear larger. So it is much easier for us to read, at least not to have to focus and take a time to read. Okay, because this is time consuming, also will give tension towards our own muscles and also our eyes. Okay, and this is stop drop flop, where we try to adopt the simple way as a habit for taking micro pauses. Okay, for example, after sending an email or text, stop once what you are doing. Okay, put your device on the table and then just having some exercise where you pull your chin and move your head backwards horizontally, and of course we stretch and let your shoulders drop and let your hand flop by your sides. Okay, this is just to release all the tensions by using all these mobile phones. Okay, especially at our shoulder and also our neck area. Okay, the last one is to use an external keyboard. Okay, because normally when we use our own laptop, again, we cannot achieve the ergonomic posture. We cannot achieve the good ergonomic posture. So normally we will advise the workers to use another separate devices. Okay, especially the keyboards. Okay, for typing, or for example, when texting via tablet or smartphone for a longer period of time. Okay, so this is to just to achieve the hand reach level of our own ergonomic posture. Okay, before I end my session, as a conclusion, COVID-19 is still here. We are still combating together in the world, and we cannot still confirm what is the exact preventive and also treatment towards combating COVID-19. Okay, so we can say that the end of the current pandemic is still uncertain, and we can see that reopening of the workplace and economy, we can say that it's not yet to be permanent. There might be the risk of closure again. Okay, for example, if there is any suspected cases, confirmed cases, and then if let's say the cases being flared out, okay, so we might have to close the area of our own premises. Okay, and countries will more likely to ease, okay, or to increase the restrictions according to the current situation of pandemic itself. Okay, so during this next period of high uncertainty, whether we don't know when will COVID-19 will end, people need to adapt to the new normal ways of working, then we can see that teleworking is part of the necessity. Okay, so preparing the potential new norms of working is crucial. Okay, the most important part is because to preserve the health and safety of the working population, as well as to preserve our economy, so that we can sustain the job, sustain the economy, and sustain our own financial structures later on. Okay, this is part of my reference for this lecture. I think I end my talk for this session. Thank you very much. I give back to the Mr. Jefferson.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Arif, for your professional sharing, and also especially on the practical tips for networking. All right. So, is there any questions from the floor? Let me see through the chat box. So far there is none. No questions. So, any questions? So before we do our closing by Dr. Khana. So if not, we give a big round of applause to our final and final speaker of today, Dr. Arif.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your sharing. So I hand it over to the next Dr. Khana, yeah, for the closing speech.
Okay.
Dr. Khana.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very good.
Yeah, can hear you. Okay, good. I'm supposed to see you all in Malaysia at this time in August for the WAPOSHP conference. WAPOSHP 35 is supposed to be held at this week. And we wanted to see everybody here physically, but due to what even our last speaker said, due to the COVID, we've been only seeing through our Zoom meetings. Anyway, these past few Zoom meetings we had, I think it was very fruitful. We have listened to most of the experts all over the world, I would say. And then even today we had our prominent speakers. The first speaker was none other than Professor Vincent Ho. Vincent Ho is the immediate past president of IOSH. He has given around talks throughout the world, and whenever he comes to give a speech, it is so mesmerizing, and then we sit glued to the chair and listen to his talk. Even today, although I think the time limited, we gave him probably about 30 or 40 minutes, he was carried away because he speaks without papers, without any text, and it comes automatically. That shows his professionalism. Anyway, today he spoke to us about the risk assessment. On the risk assessment, very well it was briefed. At one stage he has said, give me a risk report. It works for you, it works for us. That is the phrase which I think will cover up the whole talk. You give the statement, if it works for the person who's finding it, it works for all. So that's with that strong phrase, and also I noticed that how safe is safe. This motto so-called, I think can be used by every one of us. Even I think, even my next conference coming, I may use this phrase as how safe is safe. So I think we as a safety practitioners, we should know when we enter any site or any projects, anything to do with occupational safety and health, we should know how safe is safe. So finally, he said, throughout his talk, I know what is very important of being a professionalism. How good is about being a professional. So if we all can be a professional in our own occupation, I think we are doing justice to ourselves as well to our job. Okay, that was with Professor Vincent. Secondly, we had the privilege of talking to our DG, Director General of our Wilayah State. Wilayah State is a federal territory for Malaysia. He talked Wilayah, it comes also into Putrajaya. So he was talking about the latest technology. he was emphasizing on how well this drone system now has come. Maybe in overseas it's been used for some time, but in Malaysia we've been using that for a lot to make easier for the enforcement officers. So the enforcement officers, if they need to go to the site, places like top of the tower crane or top of the building, although we have the access, but using the drone, we can identify immediately what is happening. Even what the crane operator is operating, whether he is doing it safely or not. Through this drone, we can detect. And what we do now in Malaysia, we use this drone facility to reach to the accident area. Let's say accident happens in the highway. By the time we want to go and investigate, want to go to the spot with all the traffic, it's not that possible that fast. But when we have this drone, we are at the spot immediately to see. Probably we cannot know what happened, but then we can see the scenario there, what has caused this accident or even a fatality at that site. So the drone facilities are, I think, well being used. But only I want to know whether using this drone, is it we can use it in the law, in the court, whether this can be used in the court. I wanted to ask him, but then since he is in Malaysia, I will ask him personally. So that's one part of it. And also he was talking about our OSH and the 5 elements. The OSH is in Malaysia, which is under the is under the study now. It will be implemented soon. And then it is sound very okay. When he showed the video clip, the sound system was a little bit defect, so we didn't get the real effect. But then I think by seeing the virtual, it was good slide he showed. Okay, hopefully this drone cannot use on a trespassing because we are with neighboring countries. If they use this to go over to Singapore or Thailand, I think we'll be trespassing. So these are the next other issues we have to look into the drone, using of the drone. Okay, with that, I think we go with our most fascinating talk by Mr. Matthias Krope on the Youngwoo industries, where they were talking of the development of safety stimulation technology. It's a very, very experiencing. I think we all enjoyed seeing that. Maybe in Korea or in part of Hong Kong and all that, this system has been very effective. Recently, I was visiting a project site in Malaysia that is going to be the second tallest building in the world, next to Khalifa Burj in Dubai. This is going to be the tallest. It's still under construction. So while we were with the minister visiting the site, we had I and my secretary Kekishi, we had the experience of virtual experiencing the site, where it was within a cabin, and we went up there to see what is virtual things like when you are in a scaffolding, you are gone up to the 80th floor, and if a plate moves, then you start collecting, and also like debris falling in your head. So it is a very experiencing, and then you are as if like you're in a life experiencing it. But the way I think Matthew showed, it is much more bigger. I have listened that there is one place where they have this virtual or the real stimulating experience things set up in Singapore. I've been in the midst, and then like what Kelim has said, we are in the midst, MOSHPA is in the midst of identifying a location where we can set it up in Malaysia. They have said we have not seen in Malaysia, except for the VR, virtual, but we want to have a real stimulation center where most of the things the workers can go and feel the real experience. It's going to be very fruitful, but we are going to work hard on it. We will keep in touch with Youngwoo industries with Mr. Matthews, and only thing again, because of the borders closure and all that, we can't visit even Korea or even Hong Kong or even to Singapore to see how we want to implement this thing. But given a chance, definitely we're going to work on it. Thank you very much, Mr. Matthews, for giving us all these things, but it's really fascinating. The next speaker was Mr. Yiu-wah Alexander. He was talking about the gas explosion, gas leakage, how to be careful with the LPG cylinder vehicles. Where I think in Hong Kong and all that is LPG. In Malaysia is more to NGV. We call it a NGV. We also had that. We have a full technology on it, NGV, and then a lot of vehicles. For the matter, I also currently using a vehicle which is fitted with NGV cylinders. But I never realized that if I want to send it to the workshop, let's say I want to paint my car, I should the best to dismantle the cylinder. Otherwise, you have to shut it down or you have to clear all the gas inside. Otherwise, it's going to cause an accident. So he has given us a very brief explanation on what are the precautions, what are the necessary measures you have to take when you are in touch with all these gas matters. So how the leakages in the closed door and the open door, how effective it is, and he has explained to us in very clear. I think it was very, very informative. And last but not least, we had our local expert, Arifin Nordin from our NIOSH, National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, who were our partners to organize the WAPOSHP conference also. And he has been talking to us about the current COVID situation, which COVID has caused us for the past 6 or 7 months, where we are now. Where we are now in the Zoom meeting, most of the companies, most of the sites are using all this Zoom technology, and then most of the meetings are being held in the Zoom. So what are the benefits, what are the defectives by going through these Zoom meetings, agronomics, the matter, how you are having the mental stress, because from one it leads to the other one. Although the system today, for instance, like 4 hours now sitting, I'm part and parcel of it, so I can't even move for a while. I've been sitting and watching for sitting about 4 hours. It's a big challenge and experience for me, sitting in one place for 4 hours. But then this is what we are going through now. So we hope we are recovering as Malaysians. We are very stringent about all the procedures, the precaution we have to take, and we are almost achieving it. And although COVID is not away, it's not gone, but we are achieving it. But I wish the other countries also will follow up, and we will come to a stage where I can visit you all can visit me. If that stage comes, then for us in the occupational safety and health field, we are supposed to, in fact, we have to have more on a practical session, one-to-one session, and a lot of conference in practical. That will enable us to enhance or improve our safety things. With that, I think, thank you very much once again for organizing this Zoom talk, and we wait for the next session. Thank you very much, everybody. Back to you, CK.
Okay, right. Thank you, Dato', for the closing speech and closing remarks. So thank you very much. So I would like to inform the upcoming seminar will be held tentatively on the 12th of September, Saturday as well. So from the time is remain the same. Well, we tentatively invited IR Ibrahim bin MD Dole, who is a DOSH director for Selangor State, one of the states in Malaysia. And also we have invited an engineer, Dr. Gordon Leong, engineer Richard C. from Hong Kong, as well as Mr. J.C. Sika from Singapore branch, IOSH. And last but not least is Dr. Sangeeta Kao. So she is the professional certified counselor. So if you have any questions you would like to ask us, please do not hesitate to drop us an email. So this is the email address. So please like our Facebook page for those who are just joining this webinar. So we'd like to get you all to share our web page as well. So when any photo they have taken, so we will appreciate if, let's say, you could hashtag the WAPOSH under your photo or any updates. Right, so accreditation for this program approved by CIDP Malaysia, so 5 CEP points for contractors, whereas CEP points are still in the midst of approving. So basically need to attend 2 sessions for this month and also next month. So just for corrections on that, it's August and also September. For those who have attended both sessions only, they are entitled for ACP, provided if GKP approved our program. So basically CPD points, so accredited for 3.5 hours. So thank you everyone. That, so hand over to Mr. KK. You have anything you want to say?
I think it's good for me. Would like to request everyone turn on your camera. I'm photographer today.
So put a thumbs up. Once again.
All right, you guys
This
also can
icon of thumbs up or claps, so that we can take a photo and post in our Facebook. So thank you everyone for spending your valuable time with us throughout the whole sessions. Hopefully you found this webinar valuable and will be able to leverage information provided to help you all in gaining insight as well as growing your businesses. But please feel free to pass this webinar along to your colleagues who may be interested. So see you in the next sessions.